Going live. Here we are. Welcome, one and all. How's it going?
The pre-show of the Marketplace of Ideas. If you happen to be seeing this, we're happy that you see it.
If you happen to be seeing this, you're one of like 5 people that we know by name. Yeah, we've got a great show this evening. We're going to be having on Chapingro.
Are we having Chapingro? I'm looking forward to that. Although I heard that Pisco might be joining as well.
No, I canceled him.
Okay.
Him.
All right, looks like he might have gotten bumped. James, you will be pleased to know that the stream is fully armed and operational.
My God, we've done it. With years of hard work and dedication, we finally figured out how to start our own stream. Wow, incredible.
It's one of many hurdles that we've had to overcome as we make our foray into the world of online brain rot. We get a little bit better every stream.
Yeah.
And I'd like to think we're off to a damn good start.
And
for this
slowly
one.
we will cure that brain rot, Kyle. This
will
show, maybe not permanently, but we'll get
ours or the audiences.
Hopefully both. That's why I really started this. I am a recovering debate bro, and much like when someone learns psychology, studies psychology, they say it's as much to heal themselves or close family as it is to actually learn the art of psychology. So that's what we're here to do today, subtextually. In doing so, we will also heal the planet, but that's just kind of a byproduct of me becoming less of a obnoxious debate bro.
Well, it's good to have goals, I suppose. I'm gonna aim a little bit lower than healing the planet. I feel like that's gonna probably take at least I don't know, 2 more months to get to the point where we can pull that off.
Chapingro saying, still a communist. You know what?
Yeah,
Y'all are working on me. Every time you make fun of me for being a communist, I become a little bit more of a lib, okay?
I guess I should be doing it more then, just my own civic duty here. I have a certain political responsibility on the show to make you at least liberal enough that Ryan Mullally comes back.
Yeah. That's the real goal in all of this. So right now we're just waiting for
we've
an incredible hero of the world's marketplace of ideas, Pisco, a man who is known for
his lawyerdom, I believe.
Yeah, that's it. He's just a lawyer. Yeah. Pisco and his friends Hutch, IRI, and Soy Pill, and formerly Econoboy run a fantastic podcast called Live and Learn. I'm sure most of our audience is aware of that because our audience is incredibly online.
Yep.
But yeah, they have a lot of great conversations about democratic strategy and politics through the eyes of a liberal. Although it almost crashed apart when one of us damn socialist commies got in there, Econoboy. A known Stalinist Econoboy. I heard they chased them out of there with a pitchfork. Is what I'm told is what happened.
Is he actually a fan of Joseph?
No, God no.
Okay, I don't know.
Potato salad. It's just
sure.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus! Don't say that live. What if Todd Glass hears us and gets litigious? He might have that trademarked.
No, and if he does, fuck him.
No, I'm not. I will not co-sign that.
You know what? I will say I am knowingly stealing his intellectual property by saying that. Fuck him.
I feel like I should reach out to him now. If we're just going to steal his safe word.
Well, you know what? That's c'est la vie, Todd Glass. If we make an enemy out of Todd Glass, at least people know we're joking about calling Econoboy a Stalinist.
Listen, I don't want to make an enemy out of Todd Glass. Todd Glass is welcome on the show anytime, and I will help him chew you out for being so shameless and stealing his material that he worked so hard to develop.
Well, I think we are going to explore a little bit of the lines within Live and Learn in our own way. There's a bit of a split that happens where sometimes Hutch and sometimes IRI are very much play it by the classic strategies that we know, stick to more of the establishment norms, whereas Pisco and others in the community are pushing for a little bit more of an extremist activism, relative extremism. And I think we're going to poke at some of the questions surrounding that tonight. I'm sure Pisco's not sick of that.
I mean, the conversation does keep coming up, so he's at least
There's a reason for it, these are important lines that we've got to figure out.
Yeah, and seeing as how we haven't yet, why don't we have the conversation for the 100th time this month? And by this month, I do mean April.
But it's the first
to be
time for us.
clear.
I'm excited to have it. I haven't gotten to weigh in on whether or not Hassan should be president yet, and I think it's really important that we decide here and now whether or not Hassan is allowed to be the emperor.
Especially for you, considering
the thing.
I don't mean to. Yeah, right. That's the thing that.
The thing is that I'm a damn dirty communist. Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, you just washed your face, so.
My bathing habits mean I'm not a communist. Okay, fair enough.
I mean,
we could go with that.
It can only help.
Yeah. Alrighty. We've also got some excellent games lined up for the evening. We're going to play another round of President Pundit Podcaster, or President Podcaster Prisoner. We got to figure out the least obnoxious way to say it. There's a lot of in that.
Well, maybe the next meeting that we have will focus on developing the proper order of those words. For now, what we've got is podcaster, prisoner, president. It's the unfortunate thing is all three words have three syllables, and so we can't really get particularly.
There's no nice way. No.
Yeah.
Well. And then we're also going to try a new game called Straw Man, Steel Man, where we give a controversial straw man to our guest, or even a caller if they call in, and their job is to give their best faith argument for where that sort of sentiment comes from. Instead of, it's so easy for us to talk past each other and just mock each other's ideas, but if you really know your opponent's ideas, you'll understand your ideas better, and vice versa. And Kyle, why don't you play those sound effects we've got ready?
Oh, I would rather save.
Oh, we're saving them. Yes, sir. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
we have to. We can't be giving the game away. Chapingro's asking for us to show the O that we designed early. No, that's still in development. We're still working on our graphic design, so we'll have to.
Hopefully never sees the light of day.
I mean, well, you can come up with something better.
Yeah. Anything would be better. Okay, anything would be better.
I don't know. I mean, at least all right. Now we can't go on about an inside joke.
Exactly.
That only Chapingro knows about.
Yep. Let's just say even donut hole, and we'll leave it at that.
That's still pretty vague. I feel like we might as well just explain it at this point.
No, let's move the gun from that.
All right, if you can think of a better way to kill the dead air.
We're also going to probably tease, if not have time for, if we get lucky and keep Pisco's attention long into his East Coast night, we might get to develop a debate court finally, which is one that I have just that's going to be delicious.
With as many people involved in law in this space, I feel like the debate court game is going to be a hit.
Once it gets there, once people understand what's going on, I think it's going to be great.
This is going to put us on the map.
Unironically, I think it could. I think that could be a lot of fun. Having people, no, you don't understand the ecosystem of this drama sphere, okay? We are adding so much more than it has ever had with these ideas. Eventually, these things could be like, we could be for real with having people come in as as and witnesses. Your Honor, he debate broed me. He done it.
Yeah, so hopefully we will get some clarity at some point as to what would constitute a crime against debate, and who better to help us with that task than a lawyer such as Pisco, and maybe some other lawyers that we've had on or will have on in the near future. Maybe one Mr. Ryan Mullally, who we were lucky to share a show with a couple weeks ago. Love to have him back
Yeah.
to help us shine some light on this. And
It's going to be very difficult if I say anything positive about Ryan to Pisco's community because they are quite disaligned.
well, maybe some good bait would be in order. Now,
Mhm.
I do want to double check here. Is Pisco waiting on us?
He let me know that he's going to be going live and he'll join up in about 10, and he said that about 10 minutes ago, so
Oh, beautiful.
we
Well,
can
we'll keep an
expect
eye
him
out for him.
soonly.
We'll keep talking just so that nobody has to listen to
Now
silence.
let's just go dead air and blame it on Pisco.
Sure, yeah. All right.
For not being here dead on time to a 38 subscriber YouTube channel.
Absolutely. Our 5 viewers be damned. We're going
Yeah.
to now sit here in crystalline silence until our guest arrives.
Don't show any
You've
emotion,
got James to think. I usually don't.
Kyle. I want less. Look more bored. More bored. Disappointed too. Okay, okay. End bit. End bit.
All right. Was that a good one? Should we keep that one or should we edit it out?
God only knows, Kyle. God only knows.
All right, we'll check it out in post.
Yeah.
That's the joke that people make in show business. They always talk about how they'll edit it out when they can't because it's live.
Great
See,
joke.
we're a real show.
We're a real show. We're making the same lame jokes that every other person in the biz makes.
Well, it's got to start somewhere. Chapingar says each week one of us should do something that we would see on an old school public access television show. One of us cooks one week, another paints the next. Okay. I mean, a bit of a change in tone, but I'm not into it.
Home ec. We're going home ec with the show. A little bit of
not above it.
Old school public access television. Sure. Yeah. That's kind of, a little bit of the vibes. Having fun, being ridiculous, being silly.
I like to think
there's
of
not
it as
no place. It would have to be satirical.
I like to think of our show as a less funny and also somehow less informative come town.
Well, you know what? Work on that, Kyle. You need to have some more self-esteem. Let's go. Goals.
Hey, listen, I should be so lucky.
We should raise to be slightly more politically educated than Jizztown.
I suppose. Listen,
if you've got cum in the name, I hope I'm smarter than the people in it. But
hey, Adam Friedland is talking to potential presidential candidates coming off of that show. So don't write them off just because they've got a silly name. They went places thanks to that show, and also it was damn funny.
No offense to Friedland, but the fact that people care what he thinks about politics is an indictment of our society. The fact that anybody might care about what I think about politics is a bigger indictment, but it's also an indictment that Adam Friedland is like, let's see what Friedland, who doesn't really pay attention to the news very much, thinks.
I mean, let's be honest. We were kind of hoping it would have been Nick Mullen, but he's just too lazy to actually do a show like that. And Stav is actually a practicing stand-up comedian.
Oh, God, I love Stavros. Love him. What is there? You're giving me silence on that. Like there should be a reason.
I'm nodding in agreement. He is hilarious. He's got great material and great crowd.
He's one of those gentlemen that with pure charisma turns dad bod into a sexy thing. Like I bet there are just tons of women that want him, even though he's like, if you made him like an unfunny like middle management guy, everybody would fucking hate him and think he's disgusting and gross. But because of his sorry Stavros, you know what I'm saying is true. If you tune in, Stavros, I'm sorry, but yeah, tune in, Stavros. One day he'll be like, this was they're like us, the Cumtown guys.
That's right. Yep. Stavros Halkias and Todd Glass are going to see this this entire episode and
feel
watch
bad.
The whole thing fuming mad at us.
Well, you know what? Even when I'm not technically going live in a way that people could actually see, when I'm just saying things like at work, I'll look around and be like, oh shit, was Adam Friedland here for me to say he was a little bit overrated as a political figure? Like...
Oh, I see that Pisco has joined the server.
Oh. Welcome.
And we are looking forward to him joining the waiting room. Is that his understanding of what to do? I suppose I could just drag him in right now.
Oh, he's having trouble finding the waiting room because our
You know what?
layout is kind of big. He's just joining somewhere.
We'll find him wherever he does join, and we'll make sure he doesn't have to endure the musings of Magus and Grassroots, whatever they happen to be talking about right now. Oh, it looks like topography. Probably of Switzerland, knowing Magus. Pretty soon we'll have Pisco joining us, and then we'll be getting the show started properly. Intro and all. But for now,
dead silence and angrily staring into the
hey,
camera.
there's Pisco.
Hey, grab him. Hey.
Hello, sir.
Hey, yo. What's up? Just give me one quick second to put you
Yes,
guys on
sir.
camera.
Absolutely.
One moment.
Glad to have you, neighbor. Welcome in. Welcome to the Marketplace of Ideas, Pisco.
I appreciate it. Just give me one quick second. I almost have you guys on stream. It'll just take like 20 seconds.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll get you up here. The show, perfect, beautiful. And then I'll do one of these. I love your guys' backgrounds. Which character is that? Is that Final Fantasy? What is that?
Nailed it. Yeah, absolutely. We've got riding the chocobo. We have Zidane, the main character. And then we have the black mage Vivi. And then luckily these two underage looking anime persons get covered by my head when I'm talking, so less people think I'm weird.
Oh no!
I don't think. Are they
We're
underage or do they
discourse.
just look? I'm sorry. Yeah, terrible way to start our first interaction.
No worries. Now everyone can see you now, but thank you so much for the invitation. Why don't you guys tell everyone who you are?
We are the Marketplace of Ideas, and we are trying to create better discourse so that Americans and people at large can see each other better and have better conversations. And we'll get into that a little bit once we start the show here. We're gonna play for you our intro here, and that's when we will officially start the show. How's your night been going, partner?
It's been going well. We had a little bit of a live and learn episode first, and
I enjoyed that.
we had Mike Nellis on. He's kind of like Kamala. Oh, you watched it?
That part of it, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Then we discussed a little bit more about this ongoing discourse about who's a member of the coalition. Can I watch the stream?
Sure.
Yes, please. Enjoy this.
Okay, cool.
Enjoy it. Absorb the vibes of delicious liberalism. I poured my liberalism into this intro.
Okay. No, we can't see it yet, correct?
Correct. It's blank to start.
Awesome.
Starting. Our forefathers fought for liberty, individual freedom, self-expression, and the right to self-determination. They created a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, establishing a nation of free individuals who ignited a bright beacon of hope. America's a land where any person, from any background, can succeed, so long as they endeavor forthright with determination in their heart. A melting pot, the greatest hits album of the human race. We gather here today to renew that sacred bond, that oath to freedom. Welcome to the Marketplace of Ideas.
It's giving Ocarina of Time meets West Wing. I love it.
I've never heard that description, but that is fantastic.
I'll take it. And with that, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the show that, as of right now, has just as many hosts as concurrent viewers on YouTube. The Marketplace of Ideas, a show where we attempt to dive into the good faith and good fun to be found within the online debate space. I'm your host, Kyle Smith, and with me, as always, a man whose political philosophy is as red as his hat, James Vagabond.
Okay, come on now. I'm not a full commie. Relax here. I wrote that intro. You're gonna call me out for being a communist first thing out, okay?
He embarrassed us in front of Ryan Mullally, and ever since then, I've been making sure to go hard on him because I want to draw clear lines of distinction.
He's got to distinguish himself as the liberal. All right. I'm incredibly excited to be here with you today. We have a wonderful show lined up. Welcome, one and all, to the Marketplace of Ideas, the show built by average, humble Americans for average, humble people. Later in our show, we will be taking calls, and if Pisco likes your call, he can award you up to 1,000 Griff coin based on how much he enjoys your call. Now, what is Griff coin, you ask?
It's the official fake currency of the Marketplace of Ideas.
Not for investment purposes. It's purely a gamified currency to power our games and contests in our Discord. We also have a functioning marketplace where you can invest in ideologies, compete in debates, and compete in an actual marketplace of ideas. How did nobody think of this before? We have no idea, but thank God they didn't, because now we have. Pretty soon we'll be adding the ability to invest in the guests on the show. So if you literally want to own Pisco in the Marketplace of Ideas, but you're garbage at debates like me, pretty soon you can do that without having to actually know what you're talking about. So we here at the Marketplace...
So do I have a balance of 1,000 to give around, or that's as much as I can give per call? And
interesting. If you want to, if you need to be bribed at some point to stay on the show, we can work that out in Griffcoin. Actual money we're a little short on. Like I said, we are working class Americans here at the Marketplace of Ideas.
But if you should be so inclined, we do indeed have a tip jar on our YouTube. So
yes, sir. If you like what we're doing.
If you do like what we're doing, sorry to interrupt you, James, but I'll just take the ball since I'm already talking. I've got the momentum. If you like what we're doing, why don't you hop over from Pisco's show and check out our YouTube channel? Maybe give us a like and a subscribe.
Well, don't leave the show. What are you doing?
Go back.
Yeah, what the fuck?
I'm not. Listen, I'm not trying to
give it
steal
a
any
sub.
audience members.
Yeah.
Give
just
it a
sub.
That's all cool.
Never stop watching Pisco for a moment. Okay?
Leave it on for as long
silenced
as
in the background as you watch the back vlogs of Pisco's content. But if you do like we're doing, if you want to call in later as well, we're gonna be giving Pisco a Discord link to post, and we will be taking call-ins later. Let's see.
I think that covers all of our housekeeping.
Sure. Yeah. We'll move into interview and discussion here. So we here at the Marketplace of Ideas are trying to build a better world where we can hear each other better, see each other better, and have better conversations. Which brings us to our illustrious guests here today. I'm a big fan. I think our guest has worked incredibly hard to become an educated, insightful, and compassionate voice for a better America and a better world. So, Pisco, you have a little bit of a reputation for being a debate bro, for arguing just for the sake of arguing, just to be right, using tricky debate tactics to befuddle your victims, the victims of your violent onslaught of false rhetoric. You've been accused of being pedantic and wasting hours of people's time discussing what they mean when they say words. So I guess my first question is, Pisco, are you a filthy, dishonest, degenerate debate bro? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. No. I actually find it really difficult to argue the devil's advocate style position that you will often see people like try to they'll try to have this vision of debate bros where it's kind of all insincerity and they are willing to take on any position if just for the purpose of debate bro. And I find it very hard. I'm very sincerity pilled in that respect, and I find it difficult both to interact with people who are being insincere and to be insincere myself in terms of my positions. Most of the time. Sometimes I'm just taking the piss, to quote a phrase.
Yeah. All right. So a real question here, Pisco. We're living in unprecedented times and facing unprecedented struggles. Even if you ignore the deep injustices and threats to civil liberties and democracy itself that the Trump administration poses, things are hard out there for average citizens. Our civil rights are being abused. We have to contend with the slipping away of the middle class. What do you say to people that feel like the system doesn't work for them, hasn't worked for them, and who are becoming more and more disillusioned with not only the government at large, but even the Democrats?
Yeah, no, I think that there's a good reason that people feel disenchanted with the system and with the current state of the economy as well as our society. It's precisely because I think that there's a disconnect between the halls of power, whether that's official political power in Congress or the president, and their lived experience. And so there is a continuing feeling, I think, that has been exacerbated ever since the Great Recession and the subprime mortgage crisis, that government and the powers that be answer to different leaders, and that don't have a need or desire to respond to what people are going through. Now, I say that in sort of generalities, but I think when you start to get to each of the concerns that people will raise in conversations like this, there can be different answers for why things are the way they are, or what are the next steps. But in general, I agree that there's a disconnect between the average American, some would say, and those who control power. And again, those institutions include the government, but are not limited to them.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation. I really enjoyed your conversation with Mike Nels this evening. I think it focused on delivering sort of those immediate changes that are more visible to average American who isn't as involved in politics as the people in your audience or that might be tuning in today. Um, do you think that the Biden administration failed to focus in on that? And do you think that what do you think they could have done better to prove to normal Americans that they were fighting for? Was it just a messaging issue, or do you think there are more like material deliverables that they could have brought to us?
Yeah, no, it is both a messaging and a substance issue. The Biden administration had both. Now, I have said in previous podcasts and appearances that I think the Biden administration is the best administration of my lifetime, the best presidency in my lifetime. But that doesn't mean that there weren't huge substantive issues. Now, a lot of those weren't of Biden's creation. So, for example, I don't put the inflation issue at his feet in the same way that, for example, I would put the price-related consternation related to the Iran war at Trump's feet. And likewise, I don't put the lack of maneuverability or flexibility that was presented to Biden by virtue of the fact that he only had like a very slim majority. I don't put that directly at his feet either. But in general, the messaging problem everyone has talked about was profound. But the substantive problem, I think, for domestic policy is spending too much time focusing on, like Obama did, bipartisanship instead of trying to do things unilaterally. I think that the Biden administration, even though they were able to achieve a clutch of bipartisan wins, I think only decided to really try to push the limits of executive power when it in the kind of second half of the administration. I think they should have started earlier. And in general, also in terms of foreign policy, I think he was vis-a-vis Israel and Palestine much too aligned with Bibi Netanyahu. That's from a foreign policy perspective. But in general, I think Biden did a good job. That a lot of the economic woes facing the American people weren't on him. Now, some of the solutions that were offered by the Biden administration took too long to come to fruition. And they were a little bit, unfortunately, the full effects of them, I don't think are ever going to be fully realized now. But in general, I think it was a good administration.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about things coming on a little too late, are you referring to Merrick Garland and the pursuance of? Are you talking about something else?
I'm talking about
like pushing
other
the
stuff,
boundaries?
Economic policy, that sort of thing.
So
that takes a while for it to take hold.
So, for example, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act and the Chips and Science Act and the not what became the Inflation Reduction Act, Build Back Better Act. A lot of those provisions, those funding measures, took a while to get approved. I mean, this has all been sort of expounded on at great length. I think that some of that criticism, especially vis-a-vis some of the funding for internet, this is known as the BEAD funding. some of that criticism is like misplaced at Biden. A lot of that is a reflection of a long-term plan to get broadband internet to most people. But yeah, those kinds of policies, the Merrick Garland stuff, I don't blame Merrick Garland for the lack of justice on the January 6th stuff. I blame the Supreme Court mostly for that. But it's those kinds of policies, the ones that kind of reflected a assuredness that we weren't going back to the era of Trumpism, that maybe we had some more time on the clock to let the economic policy come to fruition. Same thing with some of the, the lawsuits against trusts, these anti-monopolization lawsuits. All it took was Trump getting in office to completely screw with that, to screw with the National Labor Relations Board, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And so a lot of the changes implemented by Biden weren't swift enough to be fully realized.
Yeah, I think one of the ones that I think really could have been weaponized with messaging that was a great policy, that was immediate, was the proactive child tax credit, which I'm sure you probably remember the stat better than I did, lifted up like something like 30% of children out of poverty immediately.
Yeah.
And I was actually one of those households that felt the serious material difference between, the day that got turned on, things were a little bit easier in a very difficult time when cost of living is just constantly increasing. We were going through a rent crisis here in our city, and that $250 a lot of the times is what kept the lights on, kept the bills paid, and messaging to the people saying, the Republicans are taking this from you because they're not actually fighting for you. That's just a knock it out of the park messaging thing that was a massive missed opportunity. When I hear people that are communist identified, much like myself sometimes. I sometimes identify as a communist, leave me alone. They miss the fact that there is such a difference, and I'm one that really hates that narrowing of, they're both the same, they're both just fighting for some status quo, when that just ignores the reality on the ground and just misses it so utterly.
Yeah, no, and it really is true that there's a massive difference there. The child tax credit, that's just one example where Biden domestically, he wanted to make those more permanent or extend those, and he wanted to implement a lot of things that I think would have helped out someone in your position, people who were suffering post-COVID. And unfortunately, we have to be honest about the sort of pushback that he had from certain Democrats within the party, including Manchin at the time and Kyrsten Sinema. That doesn't mean that he did it perfectly. And what you're suggesting in terms of messaging, that was a big problem that that Biden almost couldn't overcome because of who he was. He was too old, and that, I think, started to show more and more, especially in the second half of his presidency, that even when given the opportunity, he couldn't make his case to the American people, and he wasn't utilizing his best messengers to get that done. And so, yeah, no, I absolutely agree that there was plenty of missed opportunities. And when there was no ability in Congress with those thin margins to get stuff done, you would have hoped that pressure would have turned on, that messaging would have gotten better, but it seemed to be tired and stilted. And they didn't really sort of grasp that the media environment had fundamentally changed.
It seems like the Democrats are starting to adapt, though. I mean, certainly there's Gavin Newsom making a lot of noise on social media. Also, as someone who doesn't live in New York, I'm seeing an awful lot of communications from Mayor Mamdani. I can't speak to the effectiveness of his policies so far, but I mean, he seems to be very, very good at communicating the things that he is doing in a way that at least gets out to people. I've heard a lot of things about the things that he's been doing lately. Are you in New York?
Yeah. Yes. So
okay.
Mamdani is my in Manhattan. Mamdani is my mayor. He absolutely, I think, is somebody that is able to connect to not even just left-wing people, but he just has a very good charisma about him. He has a very good, he's responsive to different situations, including, by the way, the need to moderate at times, putting aside my problems with Kathy Hochul, which are many and varied. He recognizes that in order to get a lot of his agenda done, he's going to need some help in Albany.
Got to work in the system.
And so he strikes me as someone who is pragmatic And as someone who is really able to tailor a message that works, and his approval rating has gone up since then, even though he's been unable to achieve them yet, right? The most ambitious aspects of his agenda, people feel like he's working on it.
Yeah.
And it reminds you a little bit of how FDR dealt with similar struggles back in the day. People forget, right? Like the New Deal and all of these aspects of his agenda, not all of them were successful. And it took time to develop and to really get a rebound going on after the Great Depression. FDR presided over some crazy, horrible economic times, but people felt that he was on it, right? They felt that he was on it, that he was all there, and that he was going to address it. And I think people feel the same way about Mamdani, and they didn't feel that way about Joe Biden. They felt that he was like asleep at the wheel.
Another thing that that Mamdani seems really good at is code switching between authentic mode and politician mode. And it's almost, to me, it comes off like he's almost winking at people when he goes into politician mode, and he'll like repeat the on message answer over and over with a big smile on his face. And it's a stark contrast to when he's just hanging out answering questions.
Yeah.
And
no, it's so important. Go for it.
I was just going to say, it would be great if the Democrats, maybe if they don't adapt his policies, adapt his communication styles, because they seem really effective.
Yeah, and sometimes I think it like that people will try that, and even when it's authentic, I heard that Hillary Clinton actually likes hot sauce, right? And she was like really big into hot sauce, but she went on like a podcast. Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
She was like,
I saw the death of
she's
the
trying to-
nation in that moment. I saw the next 4 years when I like that is what my go-to for explaining when I saw it was over for Hillary was the hot sauce moment. I was like, there's no way this is going to come off as genuine. Like, wasn't it? It was like just basic Frank's Red Hot too. That's what I knew.
Yeah.
Like, if you're an actual hot sauce fanatic, Frank's is not your go-to. That is like one of the least complex flavors in hot sauce. Okay. That's
Well,
Trump almost got my vote just based off her hot sauce preferences. Okay, it was bad.
I'm not above a little Frank's if that's what all there is. The other funny thing about that was when the host pointed out, like, people are going to say that you're pandering now because I believe it was like a black show, and the stereotype is that black folks do enjoy hot sauce.
a black show, huh?
Yeah, I mean there were a show run by African Americans. I want to be,
Yeah.
no, but they pointed. No, it's cool. They pointed out like, people are going to think that you're pandering, and she very dryly responded, "Is it working?" Which is like,
oh no.
It's a funny response.
It's funny if you're actually genuine, but if you're losing that battle already, then it's oh no.
And she just completely no-sold it, and it was like there's always been some form of communication problems in the Democratic Party that we can trace back all the way to I wasn't alive in Jimmy Carter's time, but I'm assuming he probably didn't message as effectively as he could have. We've talked about Mamdani.
He had a big speech about like the moral decay of the country at like the worst possible time. I think that there has been a big communication deficit among the Democratic Party, and just being, I think the word of the day is authentic. I understand that Trump is in many ways the most inauthentic president we've ever had, but he's so outrageous, so horribly like unfiltered.
He's uncensored.
That people take being unfiltered. Yeah.
That's
as
the word,
a form
I
of
think.
authenticity.
Yeah, unfiltered being conflated with authenticity.
Well,
He's made it okay for politicians to swear. You see them doing that all the time nowadays.
Right, but people don't buy it when you're like, we need to fuck Trump.
We need to fuck Trump.
Or they say, or when people, am I allowed to swear on that? Like, when people seem cagey about it and they don't seem full force, if they don't seem like it's like natural to them, there's just something that there's like an aversion to that shit, and people don't trust it. Now Biden, there are times when Biden at his best, he just seems like an old guy, like an old grandpa, like whatever. And he was able to actually, he's a funny guy. Biden is actually like one of the funniest presidents that we've had. I actually think, if it weren't for Trump being as funny as he is, Biden would probably be like, he's definitely funnier than Obama, funniest president we've had in like decades. But there is an element to making the person believe that who they are seeing is who they are getting. And something about this new information culture with streaming and stuff, where you can literally interact with your content in the, Twitter, you can get replied to instantly. And I can see people's chats right now. there is something about that there's an even greater demand on appearing to be who you say you are.
Do you think that's just because of the technology, or do you think it's a generational thing? I've wondered if as we get younger and as we go through new generations, we seem to trend towards this preference of whether you call it authenticity or unfilteredness.
Yeah, maybe you're right that there's always been a craving for he's just like me, like that kind of stuff. I do think that what Americans that it used to be more like aspirational, that you want your president to be the best of us, and you want your president to be highly educated, and maybe you look down on someone who is like Joe the plumber or whatever. And so maybe our ideal for authenticity has changed from this kind of to be a paragon as to now be like kind of just like one of us, one of the regular Joes. And there is a kind of populist energy about that. I don't know. I think authenticity perhaps has always been important, but the way it's being manifested today is it's probably bad if you're privileged. It's probably bad if you have a silver spoon in your mouth. And it's better if you seem like you come from a regular environment, which of course brings up the paradox of Trump. Trump, of course, is like born with millions of dollars, like a very wealthy father, exactly 100%. But there just is something, I guess, overriding about who Trump is as a character and his unfiltered nature that, for whatever reason, gets to the same receptor in people's brains, or a similar enough receptor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you see as your role in all of this? Some people's job is to go straight at one-on-one IRIs, fighting chatters all day, 8-hour streams where he's just debating whoever shows up. Some people's job is to play to the base. Where do you see yourself as someone? If you get too focused on debate and being combative in conversations, you might lose that aspect of truth that the center and maybe even the other side entirely that common belief and miss each other's messaging. Is that something you find that you struggle with?
A concern of mine, yeah.
Yeah. We had Ryan Mullally on actually, and we had a conversation with him on there's different forums for different things. Sometimes you're having the conversation to have a discussion of truth, and sometimes you're going on to in a debate. You're going there to convince people and to not give ground. Do you think both of these things have their places? Do you think that debate culture hurts the way that we have conversations, and how do you get around those things?
Yeah, so I have a lot of response to that. The first is like I absolutely agree. Different times, different places, different how I behave when I'm bringing someone into my show or bringing it into my stream is certainly different than when I'm being invited by Tim Pool or Word War Debate or Modern Day Debate or one of these different forums to press a position that I hold. But I think that my style of communication is not going to win a majority among Democrats, and I don't think that my role is to like be emulated. I think that if people focus on the minutia as much as I did, or get in the weeds as much as I did, I think you're already losing 95% of people who don't know like what the fuck you're talking about. And you're already if you start talking about like jurisdiction, and when you're talking about birthright citizenship, you've already lost 95% of people. Like you're much better to just say, well, listen, the Constitution says these people are citizens. We got to follow that. And that's what it is to be an American, is like we're a country of immigrants, and it's a fabric and a diversity, melting, whatever you had at your beginning, right? These are kind of like tropes that people emotionally engage with in terms of how they self-identify and how they view America in a broader sense. And so my goal is not to be emulated, because I don't think that is necessarily what's most going to convince people. And I do actually, I think, struggle with when to turn on that aspect of their brain. I'm certainly, when I do these kinds of conversations, people shouldn't take it as like what's ideal either.
Yeah, this isn't how you should treat your grandma at Thanksgiving.
Sure. You don't... Oh yeah.
Yes or no, grandma.
Interpersonally, let alone interpersonally, or even in practice. Like, this is how I engage in debates. Isn't how you should treat legal practice either.
Mm.
This is not ideal.
Yeah.
And so the style that I use is when I'm literally trying to get to the truth of a matter and to understand something, it's hard for me to like not if I truly do not understand something. So for example, someone will say Hassan should not be in the coalition, and I'm like, well, what? I literally don't know what this person is trying to communicate to me other than I don't like Hassan Piker. And to try to understand further, if I say like, yes, I agree with you, I don't know what I'm signing on to. So there's something like visceral about who I am that rejects going to any position if I truly don't understand it. But that kind of communication can confuse and annoy people if you're constantly asking, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? But I struggle sometimes in terms of when I should just like push that away, that sense of me to like, let's just make sure we have crystal clarity on something, because I find it like almost like physically hard to give ground when I don't understand what's being talked about.
Yeah. I think there's an ironic thing where when you are in truth-seeking mode, sometimes it comes off to other people as debate bro mode, because you're like, oh well, what do we exactly mean by this? And when that's between two people butting heads, like it can come across as like getting in the way of the greater conversation, when actually it's earnestly trying to be in service of figuring out what do we each mean, and where do we each stand, and can we see each other at least. But
right, it has the exact opposite effect of what you're trying to do, right? Like what you're trying to do in seeking clarity is to give like the perfect or the most respect to someone else's position to understand them, but it comes across as you're trying to like pick them apart. I think that the truth behind that is people don't like to be questioned. And the second aspect of it is people feel, I think, a little insecure when they start to think about like, well, what are you saying there? And you actually don't know. But I can understand and can sympathize. Yeah. There's a ton of people who think that is like inherently deceptive or something. And even me trying to like, if I were to try to throat clear and say, listen, what I'm doing right now isn't because I don't like I want to debate per you. I'm not trying to force you into a position. I'm just trying to understand. Like even me just saying that out loud is going to put people on guard. So yeah, it's something I struggle with for sure.
I can see you doing the work as someone who's watched you over the years. I can see you doing the work, and I can see sometimes when it really feels like it's breaking through to people, and that same sort of action in other points I can tell is having the opposite thing. And I just want to say, I see you're doing the work. I see that. I think it's getting you somewhere. I think the way that you are using precise language and trying to make sure that everybody's on the same page, it's a delicate balance, and I think you're doing work and getting better at walking that fine line, and I think it is important.
I try to. I think one thing that maybe will help is just like how I say something, and being more deliberate about why I'm doing something out loud. So here's something that I've tried before. I've said to someone, listen, this is what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to my debate tactic right now is I want to try to understand X, Y, Z. And if you say X, I'm going to say Y. And if you say, so if I peer behind the curtain as to like what my intention is in the context of a debate, sometimes it gets people to open up. And other times just being like, explaining one's thought process, be like, the reason I'm asking these questions is because I think I agree with you that Hassan Piker is a bad faith actor. And I think I agree with you that he's like not really a liberal in this sense and Democrat, but like, I'm concerned that if I tell you that he's not part of the coalition, that you might think that what I want to do is like not go on his show, or that for other people not to have him on the campaign. And I don't know if I agree with that. Almost phrasing it that way, bringing someone into your confidence, even though I'm not good at doing it a lot of the times, I'm starting to recognize that there are ways in which you can address the same concern through less pointed language.
Yeah. I mean, communication is it's a delicate dance. You have to do it with compassion and patience and creativity, and we're even if you've got all of those down, we've got just such a complex world in front of us that even if you're two people with the same mindset and underlying philosophies, and you both have compassion and want to make a better world together, it's just such a vastly complicated landscape. I think it's important for all of us to keep that in mind and try and
Here's one thing I'll
make
say
that
though.
real in your conversations. Yeah.
Sure. And I mean, I agree with that. One thing I will say is when there is a set of actors who your audience really dislikes on a position that the audience really dislikes, and when I go into the mode of, hang on a second, I didn't ask that, I asked this, everyone becomes my friend. And an example of this is when I go on Tim Pool and we start talking through like a Mahmoud Khalil case, or we start talking to Kilmar Berger Garcia. Now everyone likes the clarity and everyone likes the linearization. And they're less bothered by it. So I do think that it's a manner of wearing the correct hat at the correct time and using the skills in a more balanced way. But no, I recognize that's a struggle for a lot of people. One thing that keeps me, I guess, one thing that keeps me going in terms of trying to refine that strat is not being misunderstood. And I don't like the like the notion that I'm being misunderstood. And so to the extent that my preferred way of communicating isn't getting across what I want to get across, that's a motivating factor to improve. And I'm open to that.
Yeah. I mean, important stuff. And once again, I'll say I've enjoyed seeing you develop in that way and work on things. You know what? I'm going to say I think that's enough of our vegetable conversation. Let's get into the red meat of salacious debate
Right.
bro content.
Indeed, and I want to give some shout out to Chapingro being our cheerleader in the YouTube chat as always, and Grassroots Hegemon has shown up. He says that he's here and he's late. He also points out that he's gay.
Oh yeah,
And,
we should hand you the Discord link. Wait, what?
I'm just reading
happened?
the comment. Grassroots Hegemon says that he's here and late and gay, and he was arguing that General Grievous is the hero in Star Wars. My bad. I told him that he's a bold one for arguing that position.
Wow.
I hope he got the
You
rest.
are a bold one.
Maybe that's the new conversation of this evening.
Let
Let me send you over a link for when people want to call in and get in on the conversation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
If you want to call in and win some Griff coin or just ask Pisco a question, you can join our waiting room. You have to scroll down a little bit. Actually, you know what, Kyle? Executive decision. I'm bringing it up.
Sure.
I'm bringing it up.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm pulling up the category. So, because Pisco had trouble finding it.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't find it.
You have to scroll down quite a bit. We got a lot of stuff we're working on the Discord. We got a lot of big ideas, and we kind of took the idea of like keep it simple and flipped it on its head, and so we have a lot of very simple things that that kind of crowd the server. But here's a non-expiring link for you if you want to throw it in your chat for people that want to call in at some point.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll do. We'll put this in the chat.
Kyle, what do you think? What should we go on to first? Well, you know, how about we
I think should be the guest choice. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. We've got a menu
very good.
of interesting options for you.
Awesome.
We're trying to, like we've said, make a better discourse. But one of the ways we want to do that is by having more fun, being a little silly with it, so that everybody can let loose and you know, let the hair down, have some fun. And so we have 3 interesting games here for you today. Well, two games and sort of a meta a bit we're trying to build here. So the first is called why don't you play one of them and I'll explain it, Kyle.
We should play them when we start them.
Yes, sir. Okay, he's got a fun little sound effects he's made.
They're intros for the.
They're great. They're great. So we've got Strawman Steelman, which is we'll give you a position that maybe somebody from our side would use as a straw man to insult the other side, and your job is to give us the best steel man of where that position comes from, the most reasonable version of that you can come up with. So that's option 1. Option 2 is called
Podcaster.
Go for it.
Podcaster, prisoner, president. Very similar to the game Fuck, Marry, Kill. You might have heard of that one.
Yep.
Of course, we don't want to talk about who we want to fuck on this show because it's
there's
just
other
not the
shows
kind
for
of
that.
Yeah, and like our first show is with Connor, and he's apparently had a gooner problem in his audience, so we don't want to encourage
that.
any of that if we can avoid it.
Interesting. No.
So yeah, we'll be sorting
that.
people into whether they should rule the free world, be stuck in prison, or maybe they just get a podcast and they could just say their ideas to the world.
Got it. I'm in.
Now, to be
That's
clear,
option 2.
That's option two.
Yeah.
And then option 3 is we are one of the goals of our stream and our project is to I think you'll recognize this quote. It's altered a little bit. We want to eradicate debate bros from public society. If you remember, that was said in a much more controversial subject by, gosh, I forget, one of those awful people that everyone should forget over time. But we want to create a debate court here where people can be accused for their debate bro crimes. And you as a lawyer, we thought would be a great person to talk to help us decide what sort of crimes should be crimes against debate and public discourse. And we can have a little discussion about what those infractions would look like, and maybe look at some common suspects and decide who should be investigated for debate bro crimes. Yeah. So your choice, option 1, 2, or 3.
Let's do 1 to start off with, because I like that.
Yeah.
And then we'll see where we are.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Now you said that this does not play to your strength, does it? To be steel manning a straw man?
No, it doesn't. That's one of the reasons. Yes.
Well, then this will be a fun test.
Yes.
So why don't we then, without any further ado, launch into our game Straw Man, Steel Man.
Straw Man,
Steel Man.
See, we're a real show.
We're a real
We've
show.
got intros and everything.
All right.
So James, if you could give us our first straw man of the evening.
Let me bring up the list here. All right. First straw man of the evening. Oh, we already did this one a little bit, but Pisco is a contrarian debate bro who relies on rhetoric and logic traps to win his debates. Steel man that.
Yeah,
where does this come from?
The steel man is that oh wait, so I have to support that position, right?
Yes.
Okay, as best you can. We'll give you an opportunity to say what you actually believe afterwards.
Sure, yeah. The steel man of that is people feel as though the central nucleus of the argument isn't being addressed, and by using up all this time on sort of laying a foundation that is semantically coherent and all that shit that he claims to care about, he's avoiding the kind of thrust of where people are going, and he kind of knows where we're going with certain places, and he wants to try to make the conversation be filibustered or bogged down in areas that are not as interesting to the interlocutor, and so that's why you see this kind of linearization or this kind of going through different useless exercises when we all kind of know what we're talking about. That's the kind of overall steel man of that. I think it's cope, but that's my view.
James, up until the statement about it being cope, do you think you would have believed that had it not come from Pisco?
It sounded a little bit mechanical, but I think the substance of what was said was a pretty good steel man of where people come from. Maybe it doesn't explain all of the little things, but yeah, there was a definite amount of self-awareness of where that trope comes from and that criticism comes from.
Sure, yeah.
I'm gonna rate that as a successful steel man. What do you think, Kyle?
You know what? If it had been coming from somebody else's face, I might have actually believed that they meant what they said. So I think that's pretty well
Used
done.
a lot of big words there, sir. Clearly trying to bring us off course.
To convince me. Now that you've been so gracious as to steelman that position, feel free to say some words in your defense.
Yeah, no, I think that it's not accurate because one is it's talking about intention, right?
Yeah.
And intention, I'm willing to go hours and hours and hours and let people open up the conversation to where they want to go. And so if it's about intention, I don't think that's true. I don't shy away when I don't want to talk about something. I'll say it. I'll literally say, "Hey, I don't want to talk about this." And so to the extent that the criticism is like, well, you're trying to bog down the conversation to run out time, or you don't, you know what I'm talking about. Like that, I think is belied by the fact that I'm willing to spend as many hours as I do to like actually walk with someone through a conversation, whether that's like on the Ethan Klein lawsuit or something else. How many hours? So because I think that the steelman of it is based in some sort of like intentional malice from my part, and I think that there's so much evidence to the contrary that indicates, in fact, he's definitely willing to have these conversations. I don't think it's a very convincing point, but it's one that resonates with people.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Maybe
And it's unlike, by the way, like Andrew Wilson. I get the comparisons often to Andrew Wilson. When I try to clarify a position, I'm not trying to do so in a kind of self-serving way to win the debate, or because I'm unwilling to put forth a position of my own. Now, sometimes it is that my position that I don't know, like that sometimes is my position. That frustrates people a lot when I just acknowledge that I don't really know, right? But it never is to try to like construct the question as narrowly as possible to give me like an edge, which I feel is often what Andrew Wilson is doing, or to try to semantic his way out of having even a burden to show any case. I don't think that's what I'm trying to do there either.
Yeah.
That's that word in particular evokes a particular
the mission statement for this show includes not being like Andrew Wilson to some degree.
There you go.
In at least
but that's
way.
also one of the reasons why I think that Andrew Wilson fears me. And if you see, I'm the only person that he like will do this kind of arbitrary amount of money to debate me, is precisely because I want to get to the bottom of where he's at and to clarify his positions. He runs this kind of presuppositional way of life or way of philosophy where everything is dependent on the existence of God, and he sometimes has arguments that are like literally invalid and literally incoherent. I actually think is probably incoherent. At least I'll say. And so, yeah, I understand that there's often that comparison to Andrew Wilson, but I don't think I'm like him in that respect. And although I am like him in the sense of I want to get clarity on the view before I sign on to any position.
Sure. Insofar as he does. But yeah, I think that that's sufficient evidence to support the fact that you are not a debate bro. Real quick, before we move on, I want to make sure that we acknowledge Grassroots. He says that we don't call them gooners, we call them pile people. Now, I feel like I might have used an offensive term when I used gooner, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, if that's an
Pile
offensive term, we apologize.
On.
We try to keep things above board here.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that. Second straw man. James, what have you got for us?
We've got Gavin Newsom is just as bad as Tucker Carlson.
Now, this one might be a topic that you've touched on recently.
We watched your discussion with P.F. Jung the other day, and that was perhaps the most disheartening moment. Yeah, that was rough to hear. If you need to take a second to recover from the psychic damage of that statement alone before you try and emotionally prepare yourself.
Did you say just as bad?
Yeah, they're just as bad. They're the same level of just trying to get your vote, lying to you. They'll say anything. They're cynical. They're just political operators that say whatever to get whatever they want.
Okay. The steelman of that is both Tucker Carlson and Gavin Newsom are like political chameleons, and it's clear that Gavin Newsom, for example, when it comes to his anti-MAGA crusade, that this is something that he did after testing the waters in a more kind of like MAGA sympathetic strategy. That was the initial foray of his podcast when he was having people on like Charlie Kirk and having people on like Steve Bannon. And so this crusader mantle that he's taken for himself is clearly and obviously a way to try to get as much clout as possible to win the nomination. And that shows that he's not the fact that he's basically putting on a second face when he has these more contested encounters with people on the MAGA. It shows he doesn't really think this. As is clear in a couple other positions too, where he's kind of flip-flopped or at least seemed weak. An example of that is Israel, where he has in one breath called it apartheid and then kind of walks it back a little bit. Same thing in terms of AIPAC funding. He kind of dilutes it a little bit. And it shows that he's trying to craft a winning message, not a message that is closest to some sort of ideal of truth. He's in it for power. Same is true of Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was a neocon, going into the early 2000s. That's when it was popular. That's when it was power, and when he needed to be aligned with Trump, when that was where the power was, that's what he did, including famously saying things he didn't agree with. That was unearthed by the Dominion lawsuit. And now where there's a lane that's being emerged in the post-Trump era, that's where he's going to. He's following the power. He's following where he thinks the winds are turning, no different than Gavin.
James, if you had heard somebody else besides Pisco say that right now, what would you think they were being truthful?
Absolutely. Nailed it. That was fantastic. Yeah. A
Now,
strong round out of Pisco here.
Now, what do you actually believe? Is that close to what you think, or do you have something different in mind?
No, I think that they're very, very different. I think that Gavin Newsom, even though he might market himself in different ways, that's no different than like what we were talking about earlier with like Hillary Clinton and Kamala, trying to code switch or whatever, Joe Biden, etc. He has always been this kind of like centrist, pragmatist guy. That's how he ran as mayor in San Francisco. Yes, he is definitely Weasley on some positions, but in terms of the broader sort of policy orientation, he's always been kind of this centristy Democrat guy who is based on some issues and is trying to align himself with a winning momentum. And he's always been trying to craft a message that doesn't alienate as many people as possible. Now that may be the equivalent that somebody understand as like him saying, well, his whole principled basis is to try to be aligned with the voter or something, so that's always subject to change. But I don't think that that's really getting at the heart of Gavin. I think Gavin at base is a centrist pragmatist, and that's how he's always kind of been upfront with. And what is shifting is his rhetoric. What is shifting are his perhaps how he would market himself. And on some issues where there are incredible sensitivities, he is incredibly weaselly. But that is very different than Tucker Carlson, who I think is knowingly lying like 80% of the time. When he has Joe Kent on for this interview, I think he knows that this is a softball interview. I think he knows what he's doing when he says, oh, well, who knows, Charlie Kirk, this or that. And so I view Tucker Carlson as much more malicious, much more chameleon in an intentionally malicious way, and where power is his ultimate aim above anything. And I really wouldn't put anything past them. I also think they're fundamentally different in terms of what they're willing to do from a policy perspective. I think Gavin is a better person and is more left wing than Tucker Carlson, to the extent that Carlson has genuine political positions. And so I think that there are massive differences.
So you don't think that Tucker Carlson was genuinely impressed by the bread in Moscow?
And the shopping carts with the quarter return service? No. My God.
Yeah, no, I think that he's full of shit, and he knows what he's doing, and he actually is willing to do or say anything. I don't think that's true of Gavin.
Yeah. Tucker Carlson at capacity of shit. Gavin Newsom, maybe some shit in there, but more room for other materials. So
at capacity of shit.
And one last really critical thing is, I think Gavin Newsom's, to the extent that he has like a kind of moderating or structural system with which he needs to adhere, that is more stable and more reliable than Tucker's. Tucker, I think, is a lot more top down, a lot more chaotic, and a lot more dangerous than Gavin Newsom, who he is being influenced primarily first by the Democratic electorate. And that, I think, is a more stable, more genuinely good moderating force. Now, to the extent that there's other kind of insulators on him, a lot of those are shady. Maybe you could say like some tech influences and some lobbying influences, and certainly perhaps foreign lobbies. But I think it's a different set of structures that support or bolster each other, respectively.
Excellent.
How do you think we get around those sort of infrastructure things that pull special interests, lobbyists? What can we do to get away from systems that sort of corrupt our politicians in the way that they represent people? Do you have any instincts there?
I think that there's I think that the first and most important thing to do is to have accountability for actual criminal interference and actual criminal violations of the law. And so, for example, you're seeing like unprecedented graft right now, and what I think is clear bribery that is not being punished. And so the first and principal thing, I think, from perspective of improper influence, is to the extent that something is criminal, having accountability for that. The problem is in defining what is an improper influence, to the extent that it's not criminal. You know, for example, when it comes to media, there can be a lot of pressure, we'll say, from advertisers or from owners, capital owners, or the higher ups when it comes to media organization. And people are quick to say this is improper influence. Jeff Bezos should not be telling the Washington Post editorial staff who to endorse or not, or advertisers should not be negatively affecting a news organization's broadcast of critical commentary that relates to their business or whatever. That everyone acknowledges that improper influence, but there's improper, or I should say, potentially problematic influences, even when it comes to new media and audience capture, things like that. 100%. So
it might
it's
be
important
worse.
to identify.
It might be worse.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not convinced that there's an easy resolution, even though, right, saying the Epstein class, saying Citizens United, saying all these things, we're gonna get money out of politics.
Feels good.
Optically, right, it feels good. I'm not convinced that there's an easy answer to resolve even the basic definitional question of what is improper, what needs to be weeded out. Ultimately, your show is called The Marketplace of Ideas. Presumably, you think that most ideas, including that of corporations and associations, unless you don't think this, should be allowed to be aired.
I would certainly agree with that.
With perhaps some exceptions, I definitely think that the most important, the reason I resonate with the concept of the marketplace of ideas is that we need to have these conversations. We need to build up our ability to have these conversations, build up our ideas, test them against one another. At bottom, the concept that if we have a free and open marketplace of ideas, people will be able to select the ideas that are best for society. I think that is the way that we have to build a society. I think a lot of these things, corporations just simply have too much control, right? Elon Musk and his finger on the algorithm has too much control over what people see and therefore what people think and believe builds our reality. And I think that gets in a way, in the way of things, in a way that has to be controlled for, or else they'll just keep the grasp at the reins of society.
Right. And how would you respond to someone who said, like, universities have too much control over it, and look at what they're teaching and indoctrinating our kids, or NPR, PBS have too much control, too much power, or Hollywood has too much power, too much influence. It's not clear to me, and I agree, right? Like, Elon, in terms of my preferences, has too much say over stuff, and a lot of these institutional actors and lobbyists, they seem to have an outside say as to what my preferences should be. But I'm not sure there's a solution that will keep in all the good stuff and bad stuff without putting the government ultimately in this kind of editorial control over what's the proper amount of influence and what's the improper amount of influence. One thing that I think that the current administration has shown us all is, to the extent that there's a government nexus or hook into any enterprise or aspect of human society, a president who's malicious and misaligned to us can abuse influence over that. So I'm very concerned with, even though I agree with the kind of influence analysis, I'm very skeptical as an initial matter over people who claim to have some sort of governmental solution to this problem, to the extent that they're not easily and articulably distinct categories of criminality that don't offend these notions of free speech.
It's tough because, like, I agree with you generally, and I think it's just so much easier to say these big solutions that make you feel like you're going to get something done right away. And the salaciousness, the way that media right now exists to capture attention rather than to bring truth, is just a really difficult thing, and it's really tough for me to see what will be the way out. Some people have sort of said that because we've gone into this salacious craze, and now we've got AI polluting everything, that we will hopefully have some sort of like inner call towards being more genuine and having real solutions. But I'm not so sure that things work out that easily. I think right now the corporate interests, or at least the big media people that have the levers there, all of the motivations just add towards salaciousness and just not necessarily even controlling where that attention goes, but just controlling that attention for its own sake, for the power that brings, for the money and influence that brings. Like it seems to me like that's the direction that things will inevitably go without some sort of change to the system. And like you said, it's complex. It's there's no easy solution. There's no lever to pull.
I'm all ears. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that people can identify a problem, and certainly when it comes to all the misinformation and bullshit that both traditional news media and alternative news media have been engaged with, I think that there's plenty of legitimacy in the criticisms here. The devil's in the details for me in terms of what the solution is.
Yeah. You know what? I think you may have made some fans from our libertarian-seated audience. We've mostly spoken to conservatives and libertarians, so a lot of them
free speech build.
Love to hear that from you. So,
since we fell into such a great conversation topic there, I almost feel like we're out of rhythm for we do have one more planned straw man for our game, Straw Man, Steel Man. Shall we
I can keep it quick if you want.
Well, no, it's up to you. I like the extended conversation. I think it's a great jumping off point. But I don't want to. Well, we don't have any callers lined up yet. Well, maybe they'll be prompted to jump in.
Yeah,
I did pin the Discord thing for folks.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Questions
You're king.
Much appreciated.
Yeah,
yes,
so
please.
If you'd like to come in and vie for Pisco's Griff Coin Awardance, not sure how to say that for his countenance, then come on into the Discord and join the waiting room, and we'll bring you in.
And I'll just remind you, perhaps maybe take a quick foray into our YouTube channel. Give us a quick like and subscribe before you head back to
that would be rad.
Pisco's stream.
Yep.
We've got one more, a straw man to try and steel man. James, what have you got?
I put it. Here we go. Okay, this Democrats stand for open borders.
Okay. The steel man of this is, it is a fact that Joe Biden's presidency, that there was presiding over a humongous increase in border crossings and illegal immigration. And the Democrats didn't really feel moved to do anything to really tackle that from a big picture perspective. A lot of Democrats claim that, well, yes, Biden had enforcement policy, but it was just kind of standard, go after the criminal stuff. It was, doing business as usual in terms of enforcement. It wasn't really meant for the moment of the drastic and dramatic increase in illegal immigration. And therefore, the best conclusion is they didn't really think it was that exceptional. And to the extent that they started to make intimations that it was exceptional, it was only when electoral consequences were on the horizon. That's why you saw this Johnny-come-lately bipartisan bill that really only came into fruition in the election year of 2024 and shortly before that. And that was when it was undeniable. And it was clearly a last-minute initiative brought about from the outcry as to the problem of immigration, not really generated from the top down. It was a response to an issue that everyone could see for years that only late in time did they respond to. And then Biden does this measure of pretending to close the border in 2024, which for some amount of time he said he couldn't do because he didn't have the authority to do. And so that indicates that, well, if he thought he had this authority in 2024, if he's being good faith and not doing something just blatantly illegal and unconstitutional, he surely had that authority before 2024. And his decision not to implement that before 2024 indicates that he either wanted it or was willing to abide it.
You covered for that bill pretty well. That was the one thing I was going to call out and be like, this is the thing that makes it tricky, because as we know, the reason the bill failed, maybe the bill wasn't sufficient in the eyes of Republicans, but if I recall correctly, Donald Trump did tell Republicans to vote down that bill so that he would have it to run on. But other than that,
there's also a steel man, which is like, even accepting that bill is kind of, even though Democrats will claim it makes the situation better, it kind of tacitly
allows
accepts
for
some
Yeah.
amount of even if it doesn't by its terms allow more or less, it's just a trigger for when these emergency powers can be invoked. The president always has these powers, and so trying to put limits on it is just a way of legitimizing rates of immigration that are totally unacceptable.
Mm.
Well, I'm no lawyer, so that sounds pretty sound to me. James, what say you?
Oh yeah, nailed it.
Pisco,
Believable, at least genuine.
what do you actually believe?
No, I think it's bullshit. I think that one of Joe Biden's biggest mistakes was doing the obviously illegal thing in 2024 of essentially shutting down asylum from the southern border. I thought it was shameful. I thought it was disgusting. And I called him out for it in real time. I didn't think that Biden had much authority independently to take those kinds of actions. And certainly when he did it in 2024, it was obviously just political. And so he either did something that was corrupt or blatantly illegal. And so on that issue, I agree that shows that Biden made a mistake, but it doesn't show that he was wrong on his initial take, which is there needs to be some sort of congressional action. And there was a desire for Biden to do that. One of the first bills that he proposed would have addressed aspects of immigration, including, by the way, additional funds to process. As for the rates of immigration, of course, this is correlation versus causation. Just because it is the case that the immigration rates occurred under Biden doesn't mean that they wanted that to occur. If they wanted that to occur, why are they enforcing immigration to the extent that they were? They were invoking Title 42 authorities well beyond when most COVID emergency regulations had been turned on to just exclude millions of people at the border. As for full-on deportations, those numbers were increasing and were high during the last year or so of his enforcement pattern. And it wasn't the case that these people were just being let into the country without any regard, or that the border wasn't being enforced. A lot of the most memorable images of like them cutting down fencing near the border, that occurred simply because the Biden administration was trying to follow the law, and these barriers that were erected were illegal and weren't allowed to be erected and were preventing the administration from processing these people. The border in those specific areas is like right through the Rio Grande. And so it wasn't the case that once they're in the country, they have to have a process to go through. And so that doesn't indicate they wanted them there. And yes, pushing for a bipartisan immigration bill written by James Langford and willingness to accommodate and to compromise, even with some pretty stark demands by MAGA Republicans, shows that they were willing to work on this issue. So all of that is evidence they didn't want this big rash of immigrants. It made it look horrible for them. It was one of the reasons why possibly they lost the election. It was a strong issue for Trump. They wanted to remain in power. Why would it make sense for them to, Biden's going to be dead in like 5-6 years at most, right? He has stage 4 cancer now. But you really think that what he was trying to do was like lose power by having this very big embarrassing moment? No. If they could have snapped their fingers and stopped this entire thing, they would have, because they didn't want, and this whole like long-term plan, oh, let's wait 18 years and then all these people will be voting for Democrats. There's just no evidence to suggest that's what they actually wanted to do, or that in fact the people who are coming here illegally who won't have the access to the voter rolls will actually vote Democrat, even if they were allowed to vote illegally, which they're not.
No notes.
Yeah, no,
Strong
no
work.
notes.
That's I think that the enthusiasm comes through in your actual beliefs, which, despite your skill at steel manning, I think does also go to your argument that you are not, in fact, a debate bro, because a debate bro would have had equal
Jury's
enthusiasm.
still out.
for
We haven't
both
brought
points.
him to debate court yet.
Jury's
Okay,
out.
I
we're gonna
suppose
bring in
not.
Ryan Mullally as a prosecuting attorney, and then we'll see where things really shake up. Okay.
Goodness. Well, we'll see how that heats up. Look forward to that at some point. Meanwhile, I do want to point out in chat, the Chapingro says that he is a self-proclaimed hater, and he says that you did a good job at the Steelmen.
There we go.
So perhaps a better skill than you originally claimed at Steel.
I was surprised to hear
you.
you say that you didn't think you'd be good at it. I think you've got at least some instinct for understanding where these ideas come
I listen
from.
to a lot of conservative media.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of conservatives talk. I follow pretty closely Nick Fuentes. I follow Ben Shapiro's show. I follow Fox News. I mostly consume conservative media. Most of the stuff that's left wing is just showing up on my Twitter feed, and I just see clips of it. But other than that, I often make an effort to seek out conservative stuff, specifically so I can hear what the kinds of things are that they're saying. And so I have enough of comfort with where they're coming from, so that I try to be able to represent it. It's uncomfortable for me in general, and especially when it's done in the kind of like jokey way where I don't know up front, or it's kind of ambiguous whether someone is being good faith or whatever. That's tougher for me.
Sure. Well, either way, strong showing. This has been Straw Man, Steel Man. Great job, Pisco.
Well, we've been running for over an hour now. I just wanted to check in and see how much longer do you want to hang with it? Okay. Shall we play another game?
Oh.
Maybe hope for somebody to call in and say what's up?
Sure.
All right. Which would you... You know what? I really want to do Prisoner Pundit.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Whatever the third P is.
Well, you know what? Maybe it would be better if we just heard the intro and get it straight from the source.
Podcaster, prisoner, president.
Wonderful.
It sounds lovely. You will have to increase the volume on that.
Well,
Yeah,
it was a quick job that we did right before the show, and
it sounds great. It's just not quite loud enough, but yeah.
Well, it would sound certainly better if people could hear it, I would imagine. All right. This is a game where I have to share my screen. As we discussed earlier, podcast and prisoner president. It's more or less fuck, marry, kill, but without the perversion and lasciviousness. So we're going to be categorizing 3 people. One is going to be the president. Now, what that means is that they are going to have all of the restraints, but all of the authorities that come with being the president in the United States of America.
Yep.
And they will at least have enough public support to get some of their agenda done. As far as the podcaster, they're going to have a decent following, maybe not quite Joe Rogan level, but they're not inhibited in any way as to their audience size. They have the potential to get big. Prisoner, they're done. They're more or less politically ineffective. Maybe there's a few people. To be clear, we're not necessarily advocating that anybody goes to prison for real.
But if you had to in the game, in a video game.
Yes. So then,
I like this. This sounds fun.
Beautiful. Let's go straight into round 1 of Podcaster Prisoner President. If you would kindly look at my shared screen.
Oh boy.
So we've got 3 political
right
actors here that we're going to have to sort. We've got Nick Fuentes, known leader of the Groypers. We've got Tucker Carlson. We've talked a little bit about him, a very successful propagandist. And then we've got J.D. Vance, Ottoman and couch enthusiast and current vice president of the United States. How do we sort these 3 gentlemen?
This is so hard.
It wouldn't be much of a game if it were easy.
All right, I know I'm putting Fuentes as a podcaster.
Okay.
We'll
narrow that down.
The reasoning for that,
that's a tough call because it's saying that the remaining 2 are ambiguous between who goes to jail and who becomes president. But we know for sure. What's the reasoning behind making sure Fuentes is the podcaster?
Actually.
To me, it seems the strategy is you. My instinct is the strategy is you got to figure out president almost first, because rarely is it going to be the case that somebody really has to be a podcaster or prisoner.
I don't want Fuentes. Yeah. I don't want Fuentes to be president. I know I don't want Fuentes to be president. That's too much power to give Fuentes.
Yeah.
Making him a prisoner, in my view,
it's too much.
He's a prisoner where he's not a martyr.
That's an excellent.
The way I originally defined it is that sending them to prison shuts them down. So for the purpose of this game, we'll assume that sending them to prison, it just ends.
They don't get a pop out with Mein Kampf in 4 years,
right?
See, the problem here is, I think that what's influencing me is like what JD Vance has already done. And so I'm like, JD Vance deserves to be in prison, but this is not kind of that game. This question is like it's kind of more forward looking.
With president on the board, you got.
Okay, if that's the case, I'm putting Fuentes in prison. Okay, and I'm shutting the door on the Groyper movement.
Beautiful. Get him gone.
Groypers.
Okay. I'm putting JD Vance as a podcaster. I'm putting Tucker Carlson as president.
Oh my goodness!
It's a tough one to swallow, no matter how you put it, no matter which way you go. Yeah.
I think JD Vance will be an ineffective podcaster.
Yep.
And I think Tucker Carlson will be an ineffective president. And so I'm basically putting the people who I in the role where I think that they will be most ineffective.
Sure.
You
and
actually
so
think you
that's-
think Nick
that's
Fuentes
my
would
rationale
be
there.
a higher Riz podcaster than Vance? I don't think that's controversial. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I think Fuentes
Vance,
would be
you could put in
frightening
any
as-
of these, and he
as-
won't
as
be
president.
that bad.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And yeah, that's basically, and also Tucker Carlson probably wouldn't have gotten us involved in this war. I think that's probably an ironically good thing in terms of being like a Russia simp and a Qatar simp. I mean, it's hard to get worse than Trump. Trump was accepting Qatar bribes, this Qatar plane. He's also kind of a Russia simp. And so I don't really know that Carlson will be that much. I probably would take Carlson over Trump even as president now.
Mm. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, yeah.
I want to be clear. I hate Carlson.
Let's be
No,
fully clear.
No, we're
If
giving you
anyone
full
is a
clarity,
lizard
yeah.
person, he's at the top of my list. To be an actual like
Yeah.
blood-sucking lizard person.
Look at the bread they've got here. You put a quarter in the cart and you get to take it with you. Brilliant. Yeah. To Tucker Carlson, as much as it begrudges us, will be in charge of the free world. JD Vance gets to share his opinions online. Nick Fuentes will be shut down in prison. Wonderful. Well, that will take us then to round 2, and this one might hit a little bit closer to home, given
Okay.
one of the contestants
Maybe familiar with them.
for lack of now one of the tricky things about this game is I have to resize every time we change pages. So here we've got a few people in the online space. We've got Hassan
This is
Piker.
easy.
Okay, I thought this might be a little bit of a gimme. We've got Kyle Kalinske, and then we've got a friend of yours, I believe, Hutch. Who goes
Yeah.
where?
I would make. Yeah, I would make. I would put Hutch as president.
There you go.
I would put Kyle Kalinske as podcaster,
That picture of Hutch. It gets me every time.
and I would put Hassan in prison. And the reason for this, I think, is simple. I can explain it. One is I think I would have an influence on Hutch maybe more than Kyle. I think that. Let me think. Actually, wait 1 second.
Uh-oh.
Let me think. I think Hutch is not an ideologue. And so he would be more plastic to different situations. I'm trying to think though. Kyle may be more effective as of a public speaker
Mm-hmm.
and more effective at getting the masses on his side.
Mm-hmm.
Hutch and I probably are aligned politically. This is a tough one. I think it's
not
Hutch.
as easy as we thought.
I think it's Hutch by a hair over Kyle.
Okay.
His politics
but,
align with you
yeah,
better, but you think Kyle might be able
but
to
I feel like
bring a
Kyle
little
might be
bit
more
more to the
effective at
yeah.
like a
Getting the
movement,
people on his
a
side.
populist movement. Yes, correct. But I think that if Hutch just listened to me, I don't know, maybe we'd be good. But I do think that it's a close call for me for that one. Not to say that Hutch is like again that we're not politically aligned. It just there's something about being a president, I think, that requires, or in order to be effective, like a larger than life personality. And I think Kyle is more fitting those kind of charismatic roles or something. But yeah, to me, that's clear.
Beautiful. This would be
all right.
my order as well. Easily.
Yeah, and if next time you and Hutch get into a row, you can show him this and as proof that you prefer him as president over, at the very least, over Kyle Kalinske and Hassan Piker.
Yeah.
So,
we didn't talk about Hassan Piker in prison. Listen,
well,
for me,
I suppose we could have just glossed over it, but yeah, please elaborate.
no. I think that that Hassan, I don't want him in the halls of power compared to the others two. I think those other two are going to be more willing to stand for liberal principles and to also have a more hinged geostrategic view of America and its power, and a little bit more realist in that way. And so, yeah, just because of the preference. And as between Kyle and Hassan in the podcaster mold, I'm much more aligned with Kyle Kalinsky's vision. politically, and so that's the reason why Hassan is the prisoner.
I've
fair.
plenty of criticisms of both of them, but yeah, Hassan is just more unhinged, less tethered to real politics to some degree. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we've got them sorted then. We were originally planning on 3 rounds. Do you want to throw in a bonus round or 2?
Sure.
All right. Let's see. How unhinged shall we get? James, give us a call. Are we going to go real politicians or something a little more off the beaten path as far as the
Pisco. What's your instinct?
All right.
Do both.
Do both.
Okay. We'll give one that's a little closer to home to our politics, and maybe we'll do something a little bit more unhinged. Why don't we go let's look at the Democrats. We've got
that's so easy.
Hill Dog, Kamala Harris, and Nancy Pelosi. Who's getting to be the first woman president of America?
Kamala Harris president.
Okay.
Easy. Done. In terms of jail, I'm putting Nancy Pelosi in jail.
All right. Sorry, Nancy. Maybe Kamala will pardon you.
Because I think I'd actually watch a Hillary Clinton podcast.
You know,
I don't think you could get me to watch a Nancy Pelosi podcast. I think Hillary Clinton would have like interesting takes on shit.
Good call.
I've seen some long form conversations with Hillary, and I was like, oh fuck, I wish I would have seen this in like 2016. The podcast scene just hadn't really pulled in the Democrats to the effect that it had Republicans at that time, I think. But she does really well in those formats. So I agree. I would love to see some more Hillary.
Hillary Clinton is a smart person, and I'm not saying that she's like genius, but she is a smart person, and I would actually be interested to hear her like realist takes on where Democrats are at, where the Republicans are at, and I think that she has a style of communication that is at least comprehensible. Nancy Pelosi, unfortunately, she's not a great communicator in my mind.
Yeah,
effective at the role that she had, but probably
as a whip and everything. Building the coalition.
Now,
plenty of strengths there. Disagreements on specific politics, aplenty. But yeah,
why Kamala over Hillary?
I think that Kamala is more left wing than Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton started as a Republican. Hillary Clinton is more hawkish than I am. That's just a fact. I think Kamala Harris is more willing to be, I think, a negotiation focus when it comes to foreign policy. I think that I trust Kamala Harris as a person more than Hillary Clinton. Say what you want about I think bullshittery that Hillary Clinton went through by Republicans who were in all these like corrupt investigations, etc. Hillary Clinton, I think, is more selfish and more in it for herself, and also, frankly, I think more captured by foreign interest than Kamala Harris.
Interesting.
I didn't care for her husband's administration.
That would be my biggest factor.
I just think it's just part of this like liberal hawk consensus, and I think that she is in principle much more pro-Israel. I think that she is also willing really to
go along to get along.
Yeah, like she and her husband, as I'm sitting here, I'm recalling some of the interventions that Bill Clinton did and some of the deals they had as part of the Clinton Foundation, and I don't have good recall of them, but my impression of her is someone who's more willing to go along to get along. Yeah. And the foreign policy front. On the domestic policy front, I mean, what is the advantage that Hillary Clinton has over Kamala Harris? She's more hateable, I think. Sure. I don't think she, even given Kamala Harris's like communication flaws, Hillary Clinton is just not very well received by a lot of people. And she had an opportunity at healthcare reform in the 90s, and she didn't do exceptionally well at rallying support for it. And so I just don't know what advantage Hillary gives you. Kamala's younger, so yeah.
She seems nicer too. I will say that Kamala just comes across as a friendlier person. I don't know if that's true, but and she presents herself as being a lot warmer. Which
she wins the "Who would I have a beer with" contest by far.
Sure.
Which is the true measure of the American polis.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but like George Bush would win that contest probably among recent presidents.
Yeah.
Honestly,
yeah.
Bush, Obama, and Biden would be great people to get beers with.
Oh,
I can't really
absolutely.
I mean, actually, Biden doesn't drink.
Sure.
And Trump doesn't drink.
He'll have an ice cream.
Wow.
We'll have a beer.
But
Yeah.
Just get him hopped up on sugar cones. All
Excellent.
right.
So
Next round.
Kamala gets the big chair. Hillary gets to go on a podcast. Nancy is unfortunately stuck in jail until Kamala bails her out with a pardon.
With a pardon.
Let's go.
We never thought
let's go
about that. If you put someone that aligns with the president in the prisoner, then they can just. Well, okay, it's state crimes, can't be pardoned. How about that? That's how we get around it with the technicality.
Fair.
yeah, I assume that for whatever reason the president won't or can't get them out of prison.
All right. Well, we'll have to retroactively take away Kalinda's caveat then when she did the same round here. Okay. How about two more? We'll try and save the biggest one for last. Let's go something a bit more. Oh, let's see. Do we want to go?
Before you load it up, Pisco, have you
Sure.
gotten a chat with Kalinda? We had her on the other week. She was a lot of fun. Have you gotten to have a conversation
I think
with
we
them?
talked a little bit about Ethan Klein's lawsuit or something, and maybe even some Hassan stuff
Sure.
some time ago.
Well, she's a smart lady.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that conversation quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good combo.
Cool.
Good egg. All right.
Good to see her getting out there. Let's oh God, there's so many good ones. How do I pick? Okay, I think we should stick within the administration and
Okay.
have a good look at who of these three gentlemen needs to be
no.
three
Another hell round.
beverages. Kash Patel, a hockey enthusiast. Pete Hegseth, enjoying a nice booze bath.
Beer enthusiast.
And RFK Jr. enjoying a nice shot of raw milk, presumably that has been dyed with blue methylene or whatever the hell that shit's called. Who goes where?
Kash Patel's the president. Kash Patel's president.
Okay.
Easy.
Our first, I think this is easy. Put him as president. Hegseth goes as a podcaster. RFK is in prison.
Oh boy.
I want to end the RFK Maha movement. I think Hegseth is like a clown, and he will. He was always
He'll
kind of like
fizzle
a D tier but I want to kill Maha really bad. Kash Patel would be a horrible president, but he'd be such a lolcow that I think he might actually like spurn all his fucking clout or political capital on getting hacked or like having like a weird.
Didn't he run a veterans charity into the ground, partying it? Like he'll do the same thing with his podcast. Yeah, that's what I think he's the one. Hegseth, wasn't it? Yeah. He ran a charity for veterans and just partied the money away over a couple of years. I think that was him. I don't want to spread fake news.
Well, either way,
I'm getting word from my gal. Yes, it was that piece of human garbage. But if you had to maximize for who deserves to be in jail the most out of these three,
probably the guy that wants to put us on a diet of meat and fur. Oh, okay.
Well,
you want to get him in there.
Wait, in terms of deserve, as in like has done stuff.
Yes,
who is criminal? It would be Hegseth.
Easily, yeah.
Hegseth has committed murder in my view. He's conspired to commit murder, and those things are like bad enough that he should be in prison over. I do think that he's a murderer.
But in terms of the effect that it would have on like the outcome,
yes, I would put yes, if that's what we're doing it by.
You think he's the most effective?
Jr.
Is it that Maha specifically really bites at you? Do you think they're a movement with a lot more staying power than some of these other?
I think the anti-vax movement in general has probably killed hundreds of thousands of people in the United States.
Yeah,
and
just brought back people's
horseshoe theory.
Yeah, it's destroyed people's understanding in like basic germ theory, for Christ's sake. Like it's not good.
No bueno.
Well. So there we have it. Kash Patel, incompetence will hopefully be our saving grace once again. Pete Hegseth, despite his crimes, gets to spend his days speaking his opinions into the abyss, and RFK Jr. gets to enjoy his prison-issued yogurts and steaks. Well, then, that takes us to the final round, and we're going to... I think that we would have to, if we're going to be playing a game that involves president, we have to determine who of these three
Oh.
gentlemen, one of whom we have experience being our president, some might even say that we have two of them having been our president.
Oh, no.
Donald Trump, actual
Yeah.
president of the United States, Benjamin Netanyahu. Maybe some people think he's the actual president of the United States. And then Vladimir Putin, who I believe this picture is when that lady in Germany flashed him, just for context.
Yeah. Okay. I'm putting Trump as president.
Okay.
It's a tough one.
I'm putting Putin in prison.
Okay.
I'm putting BB as podcaster.
Okay.
My rationale for this is as follows. I think Benjamin Netanyahu as podcaster, like replace him with any one of these other like pro-Israel like talking heads.
Yeah.
Like how different is he as a fucking podcaster, right? How much additional harm is he doing? I actually think that Putin in charge of Russia, there is something like particularly malicious about Putin's vision of Russia that I'm not clear that a successor to Putin, though I'm not certain that it'll be better. I'm not certain that it'll be much worse. With Benjamin Netanyahu, it feels like, replace him as a president. Like he's kind of more interchangeable in my mind than Putin is. Maybe that's like a mistaken assumption or whatever, but that's the truth. I don't want them anywhere in charge of the United States, the actual power. If anything, I would put I think Putin as president would truly be like a massive like end of America type situation.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
think
the
that
most
Trump
dangerous on
has
this
put
list.
us on that path.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
may have, but these guys are
so.
more likely to take care of it. They're more likely to finish the job than little old Trump, who just wants his airplane and everybody to love him.
Yeah, and Trump is more incompetent.
Yeah,
than
that's what this list really is. It's a competence list.
It always comes down to who's the least competent and therefore least likely to fuck up our country. And this
I
is
also think it's understated how incompetent Benjamin Netanyahu is. Like I don't think that this war with Iran is in Israel's best interest.
You mean you're not convinced by his little bomb charts that he likes to take to the UN?
Yeah, no, I don't think that he is as effective or and listen, Putin, I think with this war in Ukraine, it doesn't really show him to be like an incredibly great foresight or incredibly great operations either. But I fear him more than I fear Netanyahu behind the reins of the presidency and more than Trump.
Yeah, he's proven that he knows how to consolidate power very well. So
yeah,
as much as we might think that Donald Trump is taking us into fascism, Vladimir Putin would be an accelerant to that. So best he
and reminder, guys, that the president role here presupposes with it like some level of popular support and some level of like congressional support that is like either average or normal. It's not like, oh well, he's a Russian and so he can't get anything done. We're assuming some other set of facts.
Yeah, they'll just take him out because he's not a citizen, and it'll just go to the net.
Yeah. For the purposes of this,
jump out of it.
For the purposes of this, we cannot put him in that role, not just because he is not born in the U.S., but because he would actually be the most dangerous. BB gets to talk about his bomb charts on podcasts, and Donald Trump, well, something the devil you don't. Excellent. This has been a great game of podcaster, prisoner, president. Hopefully, we've gotten somewhere closer to solving the world's problems by sorting them into their various categories. It looks like, as I check the Discord, that nobody has been wanting to call in.
Nobody.
It seems not. Perhaps we've got a group of timid listeners who maybe are just enjoying the conversation. Speaking of which, Pisco, how much conversation have you got left in you, sir? We understand you're on East Coast.
Oh yeah, I could do another 25 minutes.
Cool.
All right. Well,
let's move on.
We had a question from the chat from the Chapingro that we'll go ahead and throw in at you. What discussions do you, Pisco, want to see on the internet?
What discussions do I want to see?
Yeah.
I want to see more discussions about how to amend our Constitution, how to amend like the foundational structures of America to make them more responsive to and plastic to our situation. And that I think is going to take the form of conversations regarding judicial changes, conversations regarding electoral college, first past the post. And so I want to see an impetus for a set of constitutional reformers who want to maintain the overall vision of the country, but give it a nice little upgrade and a nice little a cleaning to get rid of some of the stupid parts. Like, for example, I might support an amendment to change how much support it takes to amend the Constitution. I might amend the Constitution so that the 25th Amendment isn't so fucking stupid to invoke, such that it's like basically dead letter. There's like a lot of aspects, I think, of the constitutional system that need like re-examining just to make it more pliable, and certainly some discrete issues that I think need to be discussed that the Supreme Court I think has dealt with wrongly. And so there's some like spring cleaning or constitutional reform, a set of thinkers who are like bouncing ideas off of each other, and that's a conversation I'm very interested in having while maintaining like the original vision of the Constitution.
Yeah, we were hoping to have some of those conversations about fundamentally what was the American system built on, and in what ways can it be modified without losing what makes it like a vital force for creating freedom and engendering the ability to have a prosperous life, the pursuit of happiness. And it's a very complicated question, and like you say, it's not a conversation that we're having well in our society. Instead, we've built off on our own philosophies that are way up here, and we're nowhere near having these fundamental conversations about what it means to be an American. And hopefully, hopefully we will continue to have those kinds of conversations on this show. I think it's something that we've shown a certain capability to do to bring people together and have more fundamental conversations. Something we're looking forward to working on.
Well,
I totally appreciate that. Go for it, sir.
Oh, no. Finish your thought, please.
I was just going to say, I also, one other aspect of that question is I want to see more engagement from Americans with other societies and governments that are not their own, that isn't just like from the American perspective, but that like truly, like, so for example, we have a Peruvian election coming up next week. I have Peruvian heritage, and I would love for there to be like an American English channel that just like reviews what's going on in countries, and for there to be like more international cross-pollination between America and other places. Listen, I'm the first person to have an America exceptionalist attitude in a lot of ways, but I do think that's oftentimes like we don't think about how other cultures and other societies exist, and there are a lot of great ideas, a lot of interesting and rich cultures to draw on. And maybe if Americans were more well-informed or more interested in how other people live their lives, it might lead to either us adopting some of their models or at least like, a willingness to engage with them as not just these like pieces on a chessboard, as like actual people.
Yeah. If nothing else, we could do a little bit better to have a more thorough understanding of the political systems that surround ours in the world. Now, we do actually have a caller. We've got North
awesome.
hanging out in conservative voice chat, which is not the room that we wish people to go in, but that's okay because I've got mod powers and I can just drag North to the show. North.
Oh, I know North.
Oh, you know North. Perfect. Well, then
Yes.
we can bypass the formalities. North, glad to have you on the show.
Did you mean to be on the show?
He at least informed us via YouTube chat that he was in the room.
Okay, cool.
I can only assume that meant that
you guys need to fix the perms. I don't know what's going on here.
Oh, is the waiting room not
joinable? Supposed to be a call-in channel that people are supposed to be able to access.
The waiting room.
Now, I'm looking at the server right now, and I only see the show. There's no call-in channel.
No, something must have happened.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
Tragic. Tragic. Okay, technical
I think
difficulties.
that's probably why you're not.
We almost made it, Kyle. We almost made it with no technical difficulties. And now, you know what? That's our excuse then. We would have had millions of callers. Perhaps everyone would have called, but the call-in waiting room was not available. So
the permissions
that's never
used to
happened
be
before.
open.
Yeah.
People used to jump into the waiting
Even
room.
last
I
show.
wonder,
Yeah.
I think Chapringo has the ability to join in, but I can't.
Oh,
so I think you might have certain
because
roles
we've given
allowed
them
and
some
then
extra
some
perks.
not.
Okay.
No, I don't think Chapingo does have any extra perks. It should be open. Well, it is now. It's open to anybody to jump into.
There we go.
Into the waiting room.
Pisco,
Maybe
can you check and see if you can see it now? At least.
Let me see.
I appreciate you.
I can't
right
see it. If you're wondering,
What North?
I can't see it. If
You
you
still can't
change
see it?
terms, I can't. Maybe it hasn't updated on
I
my
still
end.
can't
but
see it. No.
Still can't see it. Okay. Well, we'll figure that out at some point. You know what, guys? If you did want to call in and couldn't find the waiting room, then go into any channel and we'll find you. But we're about to wrap up pretty soon, anyways, though. So.
Okay.
Daisy.
We talked on that Twitter space about the 14th Amendment, or at least you were hosting it, and I sort of called in. That's the last time
Yes.
I'm going to
talked.
pop
I
out
have
for a sec, gentlemen.
the chance to ask a couple more questions on there because you were just wrapping up at the end. Do you think that the 14th Amendment is sufficient to protect birthright citizenship, or do you think that we need a new amendment in order to reinforce it? Because it feels like the only thing that's really protecting it right now is what's that one court case called?
Wonky Mark?
Yeah, Wonka Mark feels like the only thing really protecting birthright citizenship instead of the 14th Amendment in and of itself. Do you think it should be enshrined better and with like more clear, I guess, language in the Constitution?
I think it's plenty clear. That's the problem. Is like I think the language is incredibly clear over what it is, and but because I think that the Supreme Court is likely, I don't think it's like a foregone conclusion, but I do think it's quite likely that they rule in favor of birthright citizenship. I don't think it's necessary to make it even more clear than it is, and so because of that, I don't think it needs to be amended to, if there was some effort to clarify even further, I guess I would support it, but it would not be an issue top of my agenda because I think it will be protected.
Like even the Supreme Court case with Juan Mark had, they were considering like, is this person in a permanent domicile within like the United States? And usually we wouldn't associate this with like unconditional birthright citizenship within the U.S. Obviously, you wouldn't consider like invading army or an ambassador having a kid here to have birthright citizenship. But it feels like beyond those two things, they were even considering more variables, which we wouldn't consider traditionally with birthright citizenship. So I feel
I disagree with your premise just because domicile is mentioned in Wonka Mark that it was a factor as part of the analysis.
Is that not a factor in their analysis for determining like if they had citizenship or not?
I think that's a lie promulgated by the pro-Trump position there. And the most that Robert's question got at was like, well, it's mentioned in the opinion 20 times, but it's not part of the rule.
Well, it's mentioned in the opinion. What does he say in the opinion? If I remember correctly, that was like one of the deciding factors of like if they were going to grant him citizenship or not.
No, it wasn't one of the deciding factors. You have to reread the opinion. No, the
reread it. Yeah, I guess
states out clearly that it's the English common law rule, which doesn't turn on domicile. And given that the English common law rule doesn't turn on domicile, given that the English common law rule respects even the temporary allegiance of temporary visitors, right? That's included there. Given that fact, it's obvious. It's obvious that you don't need domicile in order to be subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And so there's no reading of Wong Kim Ark. And that was also elucidated by Neil Gorsuch's questions when he said, I don't know how much you want to rely on Wong Kim Ark counsel to the Solicitor General, is because everyone knows Wong Kim Ark's rule does not turn on domicile. And so he was totally crushed on that point. And if the Supreme Court rules that domicile is part of the test, it would be going against Wong Kim Ark.
Okay. And then one other question I have is very important. All right, you got to brace yourself. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be a part of the World War debate thing that's coming up? Or
Word War debate?
War debate. I forget what they call it. World War, Word War?
Yeah. I'm in conversations with some of the people. I've done the word war debate thing before. Like I was the first debate they did. So
Yeah, it was
I'm open to doing
versus Ryan Mullally. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm open to doing more stuff with them. Yeah, no, I'm open to doing more stuff with them for sure.
Okay, I was just curious if you're gonna be showing up or not because
Sure.
I'll be aiming to win
with like conservatives. I love interacting with conservative groups and shit. So if they want me to do stuff, I'm and if it's interesting to me, I'll do it.
Okay.
Can I ask you what are some of the conservatives that you've interacted with that you may have gone in looking for disagreements, but you found a little bit more common ground than you suspected? This is hard. I'm pretty far left, but I've been having a lot of conversations with Counterpoint's audience and Ryan's audiences, and once you get past like the surface talking points, I think that you can find a little bit more common ground or at least some good ideas that ought be contended with.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure.
Might have found
it might be. Yeah, I don't know. Let me give me 10 seconds to think about it more.
Okay.
Well, hold on. I have a conservative figure I want to ask you about. I'm wondering what's your immediate opinion of him? James Lindsay or Lindsay or however you say his.
I don't really have that much of it. If he's a Trump dick suck, then I probably hate him.
I don't even. He's kind of weird. He's the guy that's promoting the woke right thing. If you've ever seen that on Twitter.
Is that like pro like the Israel speech codes on campus and shit? That's
it's what it sounds like. They complained. It's like people that were so triggered by what they call the woke left that now they recognize what they call is the woke right, which they call that like the Trumpism thing, where they just want to do.
Yeah, no, I think the woke right is the people like James Lindsay who are like, hey, let's
like fighting against
spaces for pro-Israel.
He's constantly complaining.
Okay.
About.
That's what he says. I think when people try to define woke right differently, the reason why Counterpoints doesn't fit that mold is because I go to Counterpoints looking for agreement, and I come out with more disagreements than I expected. Like I go to Counterpoints being like, "Hey, we agree that like we can't vote for JD Vance over any Democratic nominee, right?" And he's like, "No, I don't agree with that." And or like I'll go to Counterpoints like, "You agree, right? Like this Alex Preddy shooting, this doesn't seem as clear cut." And he's like, "No, it's this is lawful self-defense." Like so. Counterpoints doesn't fit that mold. I come out with more disagreements. Ryan Mullally, same thing. It really just seems like he's full of shit on so many of the principles he claims to stands for. Even when it comes down to like philosophy and shit, we start talking about the foundational American moral proposition, whatever, and there's just more questions and more disagreements that and shit that doesn't make sense. Maybe it's Brad Palumbo. Maybe it's one of those guys. But
I saw you guys had him on the other week. That was a good conversation. He's somebody you can work with.
Most of the time, I talk to a conservative who's like a podcaster or something. I don't come out with more agreement or something than I expect. Nate Dallin, he's a lawyer who I interacted with recently on a lot of this birthright stuff. I go in the conversations. He's more conservative, more centristy, Mormon type. After every conversation with him, I feel like we're more aligned. So maybe that's a good example. But in general, I don't usually come out with any Republican being like, wow, we agree on more stuff. It's usually like, holy shit, this person is confused and unhinged.
I guess I've just had that experience. But that's just
my experience.
I think maybe my experience comes from the fact that I thought they were just so incapable of having a meaningful discussion that when there was a little bit of there, I was like, oh wow, it's not just Trump dick suckism. There's underlying philosophy to a lot of these people. Maybe I'm controlling for the best of those people.
I was going to say, James, I think you're interacting with Connor's community a little bit too much. We're a bit of a cream of the crop when it comes to the conservative.
And Chapingro is one of the best of the best of Ryan's audience, I presume.
And one of the things, it's just like the same thing with like the Tuckers of the world. Like fuck Tucker and these people. Like I don't like these people, and I'm not surprised or anything when Tucker takes a certain position. I think it's all self-serving. And I don't really, same thing with like Dave Smith and these types. I'm like you guys are just marks. You guys are dumb, and I don't really ever think that they get to the right position for the right reason, or if they do, it's super late. Or they were like, and so I don't really, these people don't surprise me.
I think Dave Smith is a genuine retard. I don't think Tucker is. I think Tucker is
It's
just
cynical.
malicious.
Yeah.
I think we need to recognize
Sure,
that.
but what I'm trying to say is like
He
they don't
runs a
surprise
clique,
me. I'm like,
and he knows it.
I'm not surprised by these people. And like I expect Tucker was going to do shit like this. I expect that you know, to me this is not like an act of bravery. I think that what's more brave are people like, and you guys might roll your eyes, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger. These are people where I'm like, okay, this is someone who really took
it. Yeah.
And yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I want these people to keep fighting within the Republican Party, and you don't. So
okay. I mean, you're just delusional. You need like this party. You're trying to associate with this party because why? Why do you associate with the party?
Because believe it or not, the party and the people in the party still believe, like I believe in a lot of things that they still run on. Like I believe on like controlled immigration and like deregulation of the economy. And I mean, it's not really a Trump thing. Trump is very recently, with his cultish behavior, is able to take the leadership of the party. But I think the base still believes in these things like Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, but there's room in the Democratic Party for centristy Dems.
Yes, but the Democratic Party will never ever like. They might, I guess, slightly indulge the blue dog Democrats, as you call them, but it'll never be like a mainstream position. And when I want to do politics, I want like my things to be.
Dude, but like the thing is,
and not like a minor compromise as a minor part of a big tent in a party. Like you understand there's a difference between the two, right? I'd figure you would want the same. You would never want to join the Republican Party just as like a rhino liberal Republican in order to get like your slice of the compromise if you were like part of the Congress or anything.
Well, like depends on what you care about, right? Like for me,
in like a more majoritarian degree.
I view the conflict with the parties now largely is like a civilizational battle, like a clash of civilizations. And so, okay, you have differences in like how much regulation you want and how much border enforcement you want. That for me, that's like okay,
like you understand
two big meals.
What do you mean by like a clash of civilizations? Do you mean like liberalism versus like anti-liberalism or illiberalism? Is that what you're getting at, or what exactly are you?
Yeah, that fundamentally that they're the models of greater deregulation, more immigration control. Those are consistent with democratic frameworks that have occurred in our lifetimes. Bill Clinton deregulated. Bill Clinton passed immigration reform to restrict more highly immigration. Obama was the deporter in chief, and they're deporter in chief, whatever you want to call it, whatever Piers Morgan says, right? So the model for a democratic influence in the areas that you're talking about, like abundance in some ways,
but it's a summation
it's a deregulation movement.
Part of your official party platform to like focus on. It's a summation. It's not just what you can't just take the one individual bits and be like, oh, the Democrats sometimes do this. Oh, the Democrats sometimes do that. Thus, you should support the Democrats. It's a whole. It's a. I don't even know how.
What matters to you more? Do those policy positions? Do those policy positions matter to you more than like what Trump is doing with rights and what Trump is doing with authoritarianism? Like, that's what I'm saying is the civilizational concern.
No, what I want is a conservatism within the United States based off of what you would call classical liberalism. And I think we need that within the United States. I think any healthy democratic system requires two things. You need a progressive movement that tries to push forward, and then people like me who think, hold on, let's go take a little minute here. Let's go analyze all this. Let's make sure that
you're like, why would I want to be why would I want to be irrelevant? You ask why would I want to be irrelevant in the Democratic Party? You're irrelevant in the Republican Party.
Sure,
or would you want to be relevant?
Relevant right now, but I think it's much easier for my irrelevancy to become relevant again within the Republican Party than it'll ever be working within the Democratic Party. Do you think the Republican Party will ever it'll be easier for the Republican Party to return to principled conservatism than it'll ever be for the Democratic Party to become a conservative right-wing party? You understand that, right?
Well, so if by conservative you mean deregulatory in nature and immigration control? That's what you mean by conservative?
Well, it's I guess conservative. I guess there are multiple ways of defining it. There's the Burkean conservative, and there's
what do you mean by it?
Of the Republican Party. I mean, it's both, I guess.
Wait, so what do you mean by conservative? The Democrats are like a center left Big Tent party. And so I need to like know what you're talking about when it comes to conservative.
I care. Do you want me to like bring up my whole policy sheet? Hold on.
Oh, just
You can just give a summary of
you mean
your own
socially
understanding of
conservative?
yeah, what
like
do you want
socially
conservatism to look
conservative,
like?
sure. You could fiscally conservative, concerned about like the national debt. I know there's always the meme, oh, Republicans are the ones increasing the national debt, and that's true. You can see that, but I still think that I care about. And I don't think that.
All right, I mean, like, I wish you luck. I wish you luck. For me, party affiliation is like on the most important issues, where do you align? And on the most important issues, you look at the Democrats and the Republicans, it's like there's a civilizational issue here. And one party is okay with authoritarianism and corruption, and the other party is much less okay with authoritarianism and corruption. And to me, that's like the deciding factor. And you were like, no, it's not that. I'll still associate with a party that is okay with authoritarianism and corruption, because the policy agenda is one way or the other. I'm not sure if that.
I reject that framing in particular. They will never ever. You'll never. Well, maybe you will see some of the more sycophantic MAGA people, who I don't consider conservative, by the way, to be like, oh yeah, authoritarianism is great. No, they consider what Trump is doing to be lawful and within the Constitution. They're wrong about it, and I think they're the media sphere is lying to them and feeding them false opinions.
What normal people would consider authoritarianism. Yes,
but I don't think they're there to like, oh my gosh, I hate democracy, and that's why I'm voting Donald Trump. Like, no, that framing is.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to. I'm not pretending. I'm not suggesting that they're subjectively stating that they hate democracy or whatever Republicanism.
To be clear, that is
I'm
exactly
not making any claims.
When you use that language like that, but okay, that's why I was calling it out.
I have a question.
Wait, no, stop.
Oh, sure.
Listen, you arrogant piece of shit.
Okay.
Oh boy.
And just for 2 seconds, when I said that they are okay with and abide by corruption and authoritarianism, I'm not making a claim about their own self-cope and delusion for why what is going on with Trump is not either of those things. What I'm saying is what is obvious to normal people who or actually learn it or who actually like pay attention is corruption, authoritarianism. They abide by that. I'm not claiming they don't have a self-delusion, like you have a self-delusion that this Republican Party is ever going to go quote unquote back to normal and that they don't have their own internal little explanations. That isn't what I'm saying. I'm saying they're okay with that. However they internally justify it to themselves, they're okay with it. And you're okay with it too because you associate with this party. And their leaders for the last 10 years have been okay with it. And okay, you want to say that that's fine because my national debt. Are you fucking stupid, my national debt? Are you fucking stupid? The deregulation. They don't give a fuck about deregulation insofar as it doesn't affect the bottom line of their corrupt donors or their corrupt benefactors. That's all they care about. And for you to align yourself with that party, I think says more about you than it does about me, like stating that they don't have a cope. I've never claimed that they don't have some internal self-cope. These people are delusional.
Well, Pisco, you can purposely try to misrepresent me as being some sort of Donald Trump dick sucker, as you are right now, but that's just not true. I will maintain my positions. I will maintain my principles. I think my principles more fundamentally align with the Republican base. I think right now, I do agree with you that it is a very bad thing right now within the Republican Party that they're so captured by Donald Trump. But I think anything that can be done can be undone. And I think with effort, a principled conservatism can return to the United States and to act like
it sucks because all the horrible people that are just bad people are that in that party now. So how are you going to solve the problem of like everyone who's willing to abide by it is just a bad person? And so you've now concentrated like the most degenerate scumfuck people into one group of people. Like, I hope they start to care about principles. Like, sorry, everyone who is at all ethical.
Sorry, I didn't realize that Donald Trump, when the moment that he won the 2016 primary, he instantly took over the Republican Party permanently, and that there was no opportunity for being able to change it whatsoever. I'm sorry.
You need to change people because the people there suck. Yeah. All your leaders, all the thought leaders, all these MAGA elites, everyone who's in control of the Republican apparatus, in charge of the RNC is like Laura Trump and these goons. And so your entire infrastructure has been corrupted. You may want to like close your eyes and believe that that's not the way it is, but it is. The Republican Party
do you think I'm out here defending Laura Trump or the current MAGA leadership? Fuck no, I'm not.
No, what I'm saying is you have a people problem. The people problem is like everyone you have in leadership sucks. Who's your favorite Republican right now? Name him. Don Bacon.
Yes.
So really, Don Bacon. Don Bacon, who voted for Trump, right?
Yes.
Who supports Trump? Who says every now and then,
he voted for Trump.
I don't know if I'll vote for. Don Bacon is a pussy bitch. Okay, and he says a couple of words. This is a cuck. Your favorite Republican is a fucking cuck. And they're all like this. People like DeSantis, even the Republican, some of these Republican governors, like seriously, get a clue. Anyone who is still like running defense for this administration, even if they grumble every now and then, has a personal issue. That is to say, they are personally conflicted and you can't trust them for jack shit. And that includes, by the way, dipshits like Chris Sununu. That includes, for the longest time, Chris Christie. Chris Christie is like the max that I'm willing to abide for people, for Republicans, he's whatever. But all the Republicans currently in power, most of them, I would say 90% of them, are Trump dick sucks who either encourage Trump's worst excesses or are okay with it and are just going along to get along. That's not a model of leadership. That's not a model of moral clarity.
I would agree with you. And that's why if you're ever going to change the Republican Party, the first ones you're going to get out are the leadership. That's going to include all the MAGA thought leaders. And then after that, you're going to get out the followers. And that's it's going to be my goal.
So this is what Don Bacon says. So this is Don Bacon on Hegseth firing top military officers. Quote, "It's not morally right nor wise. The Secretary of Defense has the legal right to fire these flag officers, but it is not morally right nor wise. Further, he owes an explanation to the tax-paying citizens." Like, can he just say something brave for once in his fucking life? No, this war is fucking illegal. This war fucking sucks. And Hegseth is an unhinged person. Everyone knows Hegseth is an unhinged person. We have insider reports about how unhinged he is and how everything that people have been saying about his worst impulses is completely true. He embarrasses himself in all these press conferences, talking all sorts of shit and acting like a literal clown in his little outfits. And the worst he has, that Don Bacon says, oh, he needs an explanation for the American people. How about we have a Republican with balls? The problem is all the Republicans with balls left the fucking party. All the Republicans with balls stood up to Trump and have been like completely shunned from the Republican Party. So you're going to have a hell of a job fixing that personnel issue because 99.9% of these Republicans in any position of authority are not worth saving. They're all rats.
The problem is that the Republicans that left the party, they're also, in a way, I would say, cowards. Because what they did was, instead of remaining in the Republican Party and continuing to fight within the Republican Party, they decided to concede it to Donald Trump. That's what happened. The Republican Party is basically an institution. That's what it is. And the institution has been completely, I agree with you, it has been completely overturned or taken over like a brain parasite with MAGA. And the ones that recognize this, like your Liz Cheney, your Adam Kinzinger, 15 Republicans that voted to, was it 15 or was it 12 when it came to the impeachment of Donald Trump?
Second impeachment, I think it was 10 in the House and 5 or 6 in the Senate.
Yeah,
and I think there's one left in Congress. And dude, all of your leaders suck. Don Bacon is not the leader of a movement. Every single one of these motherfuckers suck. The one Republican with balls is Massey, and Massey is an insane person.
Yeah, that is true. He is insane. I'm currently I'm self-reflecting on what I'm going to vote for him in 26 or not. I probably will because he's good on the Epstein stuff, but he gets more and more insane as the days go on. It's more. Yeah,
so this is not a party worth like trying to. In my opinion, trying to resuscitate or trying to like you're better.
It will only be
better as an independent.
Fight for it. The problem is that all the quote unquote good Republicans, as you would call them, all left the fucking party and they all refused to fight to a notable degree. So
I mean, like, where are the quote unquote good Republicans? By the way, I don't consider George Bush one of these quote unquote good Republicans. He's been fucking silent. Bush. What? Yeah, they've been quiet. George, he's dead, but
yeah, he is dead. That's true.
But George W. has retired from political life. Fuck him. Fuck George Bush for not speaking out against Donald Trump. Piece of shit. So you have nothing to say, Bush, about the degeneration of your country and your Republican Party, fuck them. Who are the good Republicans? Name them. The good Republicans are the ones who are made enemies of the Republican Party. Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney. You can count them on one hand. Not Paul Ryan, not Kevin McCarthy. These guys sucked, and they were all.
Are you going to criticize Don Bacon
Trump
for
used.
crossing the aisle and introducing an amendment limiting, I believe it was a presidential pardon power when it comes to like introducing an amendment?
A token gesture that no one gives a fuck about. That Don Bacon.
Yeah.
No, that's not the kind of. That's not the kind of profiles and courage. No, you can find a Republican. You can find a Republican here and there.
The problem is that there's nothing that will ever be good enough. All of them are. You can find You can find a. You can find a Republican here and there who says the right thing on a certain thing. No doubt about it. The problem is that the Republican Party doesn't categorically stand against the corruption and excesses of the administration. And even think of someone who's retiring, someone like Tom Tillis, the way he talks about Trump, he's got Trump's dick 2 inches down his fucking throat anytime he offers a criticism, and he's retiring. These guys are degenerates, and this is your party that you want to fucking resuscitate. I mean, these guys suck. I don't know what to say. I mean, you'll never find me defending our leadership, but it is indeed the party I want to resuscitate. And you can try to conflate the two.
I mean, good luck with that, sir. Good luck with that.
Thank you.
I will say, in North's favor, I do think that North is a good Republican. I think that he's trying to put in the work. I know that he's been going to the No Kings protest and trying to make some ground with his Real Republicans effort, trying to recruit people more in line with his vision and a saner vision for a Republican Party. I wanted to ask, what is the value to having a more favorable Republican Party against which to run? Would you prefer to have a stronger Republican Party for the sake of the country, or do you think it would be better to have a weaker Republican Party? By weaker, I mean in the state that they're in right now, for the purpose of making the left.
Are you asking me or North?
I guess both of you.
Asking you,
but primarily you.
Okay, so the question is, what is the virtue in having a Republican Party that's more like a better Republican Party?
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know that I worded it great, but yeah, that's the gist of what I'm going for.
No, I would rather have a more sane Republican Party. Like, it concerns me that there's a Democratic tactic sometimes to like support the more unhinged candidate because they're less electable in general election. I hate this kind of oscillation where we eventually have these kind of standoff elections between like Marie Le Pen and Macron, or in the Peruvian context, we had Keiko Fujimori against Pedro Castillo, like the communist versus the daughter of the previous dictator of Peru.
Jesus.
So it concerns me when in a two-party system where all it takes is like a downturn in the economy, you have a crazy party that's just waiting in the wings. Another example, this is like in Argentina, where you had the Peronist party for a long time fucking shit up, and then you have this crazy man, Milei, he just jumps off. So like, it's not a good situation to be in, because it will, in a two-party system, I think, lead to that party eventually having control in the long term. That's why I take the Groyper threat incredibly seriously. I think that they are gaining ground, and I'm concerned about that. And I don't think the Democrats should just bolster Groypers, because one day that'll bite them in the ass. And so I do want a more sane Republican Party. It's just not something I can achieve. Like, I can't moderate them. And the only thing I can do is focus on Democrats winning, because to the extent there's going to be a moderation that happens, I don't think it's going to come from outside, or someone like North, for example, who is just going to convince them that you should respect republicanism. I think Trump right now has still over 90% of support among registered Republicans, even after everything he's done.
You think my goal is
generational thing?
Convince Donald Trump? Jesus.
Okay, well,
no, the members of his party, who's going to be convinced by like, oh no, like we need to go back to principles and values and all that shit. Even, by the way, we're accepting this myth that Republicans ever were really tied to these like strong principles and values going back decades and decades and decades. To me, the last Republican in office that I truly, truly respect as a president is probably Eisenhower. And that's saying a lot. And Eisenhower like got us involved in Vietnam and shit. And huh?
You didn't respect HW?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Maybe more than the current crop, but
So what would your advice be? Put yourself in North's shoes. You've got a belligerent party that's running your values over, and you want to reconstitute a party that shares your values. What would you do if you were in North's position?
Condemn the Republican Party and try your best to have them be defeated in election after election.
I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's wrong. That's what I would do too. Is like you've got to the party that has gone so far from their values needs to feel the sting of that.
I agree that the Republican Party needs to lose. I will if the Republican Party runs either Marco Rubio or JD Vance or some combination of the two in 28, I believe that they need to lose. I completely agree with you.
And
the reason they need to lose is because it needs to be demonstratable in elections that running like these insane, unprincipled candidates is not a viable strategy. And then when they're looking for a new direction for the Republican Party, which is what they did after the Republican Party lost to Obama for two terms, then that will be the opportunity for
right. But think about what you're saying right there.
The party in a different direction, whether that will be Groypers or whether that will be principled conservatives. It depends on who fights the hardest. And my goal is to be the one that remains on top in the end.
Yeah, but think about what you're saying right there, right? You're like, it would be so crazy to run Marco Rubio and this kind of like insane candidates. Marco Rubio was like kind of like establishment pick of Republicans in 2016. I mean, he was like one of the last establishment candidates holding on. You had like Ted Cruz, Trump. Ted Cruz, I guess Acacia held on for a little bit, but then Marco Rubio was like the consensus establishment pick, and look at how he's turned out. And so, correct, yeah. So it's a people problem. In other words, it's that these are bad people. Marco Rubio is a bad person. Marco Rubio is not a brave person, and so many of the current Republican crop of leaders, I would dare say, all of them are essentially like this. And Thomas Massie, only by an accident, I think, of personalities and him finding an effective lane for himself, is able to distance himself from the president after he's been completely and totally alienated. But it's not because of some sort of moral courage. The ones with moral courage took a stand before we got to this point, and everyone else who's left is for the birds. They suck.
To be clear, I think Thomas Massie is insane. I think he's like a conspiracy theorist, and he believes in a lot of bullshit. But I do think it took a lot of like moral courage to stand up to the current Republican establishment, because it really is his career and everything else and he's still willing to stand up for what he believes in, which I respect. I think is one of the main things that would drive me to vote for him, is because he's willing to actually do what he believes in,
even though he's nutty.
Even though he's a little bit nutty, yeah. I think he believes.
And also, I just want to say
that Jesus.
Yeah, they're kooky. Whenever you get people who are like willing to like stand up, it's like for like the wrong reasons, like COVID shit, vaccine shit, and chemtrail stuff. This is a super chat from Doobie about the old principled conservatives. Yeah, all of these are the same people who are like pushing this war in Iran, which is disastrous and crazy. And so like, yeah, I have no nostalgia for this old brand of conservative republicanism. I think it needs to fucking die. And at this point, it's just like either a dream or they found a way to incorporate their old guardness and policy preferences in Trump. For example, you are getting deregulation with Trump. You are getting massive tax cuts with Trump. You are getting bigger wars. To be clear,
I don't think I'm even on board with the massive tax cut things anymore. I think I'm more concerned about the national debt personally than I am with
why.
The tax cut. I'm more concerned about.
So it sounds like why do you want deregulation? Why do you want
tax cuts? Well, deregulation is inherently a matter of spinning up the economy. Like getting rid of things like the Jones Act, I think would help spin up the economy to be faster.
You'll find Democrats in favor of getting rid of the Jones Act. I mean, these are marginal things, man. You're concerned about the national debt. All right. You know the track record here, and you know who has caused the debt to go up massively. And so why are we pretending anymore that the Republican Party ever had a commitment to lowering the national debt? It's insane. We have the biggest tax cuts in history.
The same, and then start decreasing spending. I don't think the Democratic Party has a proclivity towards actually going out and looking at inefficient administrations or inefficient parts of like government administration and willing to actually fire people and like automate it. I disagree with the Doge thing because I think it was like taking a chainsaw to our government when I'd rather have a scalpel. But I don't disagree with the principle of it. That being going and finding processes or government positions that don't need to be filled by humans anymore. Automate it and make it 10 times cheaper for the taxpayer. I don't think
this is some Republican dogma that you okay, make things more efficient. Everyone agrees, make it more efficient. I mean, okay, great, make it more efficient. The question is, why support the Republican Party when they don't do that?
I think they have a higher proclivity to attempt to do something like that, of being willing to fire a large amount of people in the name of efficiency. I just wish they would do it in a responsible manner and not just taking a chainsaw to the government.
And then we'll get into another crisis that was a result of deregulation, where, for example, now we have these crazy speculators and all this crypto shit and all this graft and corruption and all the stuff that's happening, partly because there's no enforcement.
Wait, do you think crypto came around because of deregulation?
No, I didn't say crypto came around because of deregulation. What I'm saying right now is that they're deregulated and no one's monitoring or actually enforcing shit against fraudsters. What's that?
I don't think they were ever regulated to begin with. They were never a secured commodity or something like that.
Now the administration's position has been that these are not securities and that they have no role in really oversighting them at all. At least there was some inkling that the previous chairman of the SEC was going to take some action there, and certainly the crypto people were against the Biden administration because they were making intimations.
Did they go through with it or no?
Before those rulemaking procedures got to the end, the Trump administration took over, but there is an impetus among Democrats to regulate those industries and not to keep them deregulated. Whether or not they're currently regulated or were ever regulated, that's not what I'm talking about here. Is that this kind of like dogmatic insistence that we not regulate things leads us into issues. And right now, for example, there's no enforcement of all manner of anti-corruption measures, of the antitrust laws and shit, and that's a real cost on consumers that this kind of, I think, Reaganist brain rot has led to, in addition to all of the actual corruption and bad incentives for the administration currently.
Okay.
But you know what? You'll see. I guess you'll see. I don't know why we are married to this meme of Republicans are good for stewarding the economy. And if you poll people right now, if you ask them, they still would trust Republicans overall more than Democrats on the economy. I don't think it's a logical thing. I think it's just sports, and people think that for whatever reason, Republicans do good with the economy and regulating shit. It's fucking stupid in my mind, and there's no empirical evidence for it, but you can try to maintain that aspect. I don't think it's as important as the kind of civilizational divide between Republicans and Democrats, and I think it's totally unconscionable to support the party now or to identify with this party in the current moment.
Well, I think you can identify with the party now, as in you can identify as being a Republican, and you don't have to support the current administration. I think that's not analogous with each other, but you can believe whatever you want, Pisco.
Would you support? Last donation from Doobie. I have to go in like 5 or so minutes, but the question from Doobie was: would North support a massive decrease for military spending, other than the minor impact of firing some federal workers? Where do you think we need to cut? Typically, this language just means attacking safety nets. And yeah, I totally agree with. Wait, let me just finish this. Let me add my part to it. Is I agree that like what you're talking about are like pennies compared to our overall obligations, which are by and large these defined benefit programs, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and the military.
Yeah, I think
it's like pennies. It's nothing.
One of the largest expenditures in the United States government right now is like military and interest and Social Security and Medicaid. I think there's like the big four ones.
Yeah, so where Doge was like cutting in like personnel, this is like it's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket.
Here's if I was in charge of the administration tomorrow, you know, the first thing I would cut ICE, DHS funding, and then I would abolish the ATF after that.
Okay, but understand that the argument for abolishing ICE isn't because, oh, look at this map, although they have increased.
No, I never said I would want to abolish
for hundreds of billions of dollars, but
specifically. But
okay, but I would defund and abolish ICE. But just so you know, the argument isn't strictly speaking mostly fiscal. Most people, the argument has to do with like how ICE is constituted. But even if you were to totally eliminate ICE, it's
I mean,
it's a
I
drop
don't
in the
disagree that
bucket
ICE is
as far as
currently
a national.
operating in an unconstitutional manner, but I want
Sure.
to.
What I'm trying to tell you is ICE is the largest law enforcement agency in the entire country right now. They just have been handed a massive amount of money from the big beautiful bill, and it's still a drop in the bucket from the overall perspective of the national debt. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, in compared to the national debt, sure, but any spending currently is a drop in the bucket with the national debt. What are we at, like $23 trillion or something like that? Pretty sure half of that's just
so the overall this view of like, oh, we just need to be willing to fire people. That's the big thing. Is like, we need to be willing to fire people. That to me, like, why do we think that that's like
I said
a
automate.
really important?
Well, that includes firing.
Okay, yeah, we should automate whatever, but like putting that aside, it's a small percentage of our overall national.
You realize that when it comes to like government
picture.
expenditures, the largest expense almost always is going to be personnel cost, right?
I don't agree with that in the American government context. That the largest is personnel cost.
I'm pretty sure. When it comes to running departments, I'm pretty sure like one of the largest expenditures is like personnel cost. Like with the U.S. military, I'm pretty sure we dedicate like the largest portion of it is just paying our troops. If I'm remembering this correctly, I'd have to double check that.
So you want to cut like benefits for the military and stuff?
For the military, I think I'm probably less inclined because I
it's because there's this dogma. There's this
global hegemon, but I think there's other
things because military good and Department of Education bad.
I never said to cut the Department of Education. I mean, I would like the Department of Education to be. I think the concept. I don't agree with butchering the Department of Education, but the concept of like delegating it more to the states is not, I guess, against my principles, I guess.
Okay. Hey, I appreciate it. I wish you luck. I really do. I think it's a thankless job, and I don't think it's likely to. I think that there's just too much of a brain rot, and unfortunately, I think you'd have more effect as an independent or indeed as a Democrat. If you're talking about the national debt, you'll certainly get more room with Democrats than you will with Republicans. Republicans have zero interest in cutting the debt.
Yeah, but I have zero interest in I guess closing the deficit by increasing taxes. We'll say that.
Well,
how else are you gonna do it?
Well, the deficit is large spending and too little taxes, right? So you can close them both.
You're gonna cut Social Security.
So
you're gonna cut Social Security and Medicare. Good luck with that.
I wouldn't be opposed to increasing the maximum age when it comes to like Social Security payouts.
Cool. That you might actually get some room with Trump on. So yeah. I'll fight you all the way because that sucks.
Benefits
anyway,
from old people.
Thank you for the back and forth.
Yeah, North, thanks for coming on. For what it's worth, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you being a good sport.
I appreciate you trying to do some hard work in fixing a deeply broken system. So, at the very least, even if I share some of Pisco's sentiment that you're unlikely to succeed, someone's got to be over there doing the work at some point.
Look, the problem that people have, and they expect the Republican Party to just fix itself, and it won't fix itself. They think like, the Democrats just need to keep punishing the Republican Party, and eventually they'll return to some level of normalcy. I think that's delusional thinking. The only way that's ever going to be fixed if there's people like me and Connor that are trying to go out there and actually trying to institute some sort of change and lead the party into a better direction. But if there's no one out there actively fighting,
Connor wants like a technocratic, like these tech lords to take over, these tech feudal lords.
We've talked about that. That's a problem with the word technocratic, where in some cases,
yes, I understand.
Yeah, in some cases it just means like it's like when people use the word elites. Sometimes what they mean is qualified individuals that are very, meritocratic, highly skilled.
But he also wants the tech shit because he's like Starship and Elon glazing. That's why. Yes,
that's his 40K brain. That's his Warhammer 40K brain getting on.
I'm a very big supporter of SpaceX, in spite of Elon Musk being tainted with it.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Elon buying someone else's idea again. Great job.
Good job, Elon.
Actually, isn't SpaceX like did he buy the company from someone else? I swear this is like one of the few things he actually founded on his own.
He also took a bunch of public funding and public money.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
Of course,
it's-
you know. Let's
Yeah.
let's
It's
ignore
NASA,
that for the
except we
narrative
don't get
on
to own it.
Going
Yeah.
to space is great. Elon's garbage. Thankfully, we get to go to space with NASA, who is making some great strides with the Artemis 2 mission. Glad to see them going further than any human has gone into space before. So maybe we don't need Elon after all, and wouldn't that be nice?
You want to try this too?
I've been paying attention to it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Glad to see us making those ventures once again. Hopefully, we can do that more as we move into a saner government in a few years. North, thank you so much for coming on. Pisco,
Thank you, North.
since North was such a good sport, how much fake money should we give him?
I'll give him 800.
By the way,
800.
Kyle, I sent you all my Grift coin in order to get on here. I don't know how to like pay the warehouse or something like that. It wasn't until I actually paid you, but you are now.
We haven't
2,000
been
Grift
using
coin
it or
expensive.
advertising it as much, but if you pay Griftcoin, you can jump to the head of the line. But when there's no line, there's no reason to pay all
True.
that Griftcoin, North.
Yeah,
I
you
feel
guys
like
are-
he did this the
Grift
first time he
coin.
came on too. He spent all his Griftcoin. We're like, well, you could just have it back. Okay, that's just to jump the line. There was no line.
I'll give him 800.
All
Very
right.
well.
Good faith from
Well-
Pisco once again, even though he violently disagrees with, or vehemently disagrees with your perspective there. Still willing to give you 800 for good faith and bringing good content. Thank you, North.
Okay. Yeah. Hope you all have a good night.
All right, you as well, sir.
Yep. See you.
Later, bro.
All right. Well, we had some strong disagreements to finish off, but hopefully some points of agreement as well. I think that North is a good kid, and I don't mean that term derogatorily. I mean that because
He's young.
I am getting old,
And
and
we're
he
old.
is young, and I'm jealous of his youth and his optimism. Yeah, it would be great if he could save his party. Godspeed
Mhm.
to North.
Let's hope.
Yeah, but Pisco, thank you so much for spending the evening with us. I had a great time. I hope that you did as well. And
Yeah, what do you think of the show idea? What do you think of the show format?
No, I thought it was a lot of fun. I love segments. I'm a big segment guy. And I love
we need segments. We need
little segments.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like the intros, the song. There's some of the old stuff that we got in old TV and radio shows. I would like to bring some of that back, and I'm hoping
Production
to
back eventually.
just a little bit, nothing crazy. Nothing,
If anybody in
I
Pisco's
see it though,
audience,
guys.
if anybody in Pisco's
I'll go
audience
first.
has any good ideas to send our way for games or bits or segments, please come on into the Discord. Let us know. We are all ears. We're just building this place. Any help, your input helps us to figure out, how to make a better show that people can enjoy and come and express their views and have interesting conversations.
And tell them where to find you again.
Oh yeah, we are the Marketplace of Ideas on YouTube. And that's all we're at right now. We've got a Discord. We're setting up a Twitter and all that. We're gonna get in the game, but right now it's just the Marketplace of Ideas on YouTube.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I love
Absolutely.
the segments. A lot of good discussion, and I appreciate you guys.
Hey,
Thank you
appreciate
so much,
as
man.
Well, a lot of fun.
We'll
A lot
hope
of
to
fun.
Yeah, we'll hope to see you around again sometime.
Thanks for
Hell
coming in,
yeah.
neighbor.
Have a good one.
Y'all have a
All right.
great one.